in terms of sports allegiances around here, I don't know how many days we've ever had when Billy gets to walk in on an 8-game winning streak with his Marlins.
Hell yeah, hottest team in town.
And Zaslow is officially bummed about the Heat.
Man.
Official. It's official. Zaz, one of the super homers that we have in town. Mike Ryan's a homer. Parakeet Cortez is a homer. Greg Cody is a homer. But when it comes to the Miami Heat, two-time champion broadcaster Zaz is really firm in his convictions and allegiances. But right now, he is super bummed.
Doesn't mean I don't have my allegiance. Doesn't mean my allegiance is not strong as ever. But I'm bummed, man. I feel like it made me look stupid.
Why and how did they make you look stupid?
And let's also go on the record here. I don't like looking stupid. They make me look stupid because it's not that I've sat here and defended them. It's that I'm trusting that they're going to do something, and I'm just sitting here like watching them do nothing. Everyone else is doing stuff. Some teams are doing stupid stuff, but it's the Eastern Conference. It feels wide open. It's like every roster spot is filled. They literally have every roster spot filled. They've added one player, Fontecchio.
Yeah, that part was funny. You couldn't have found a funnier name to trade for than to have Duncan Robinson leave town. When I first met Fontecchio, I laughed at his name. Like the first time I saw Fontecchio, I'm like, that can't be good at sports because it's named Fontecchio. And I now have in front of me for an era of Heat basketball, and this part hurts. This is the total of what you got for all of these players who made it to the finals and had an exciting run. Okay, so you got nothing for Jay Crowder. You didn't get anything for Caleb Martin. You didn't get anything for P.J. Tucker. You didn't get anything for Gabe Vincent. You got a second for Strus. You got nothing for Duncan Robinson except some cap relief.
And Fontecchio.
You did get Fontecchio. Dragic with Precious. You got Lowry, and then you sent Lowry with a first-round pick to get Rozier. So and Jimmy for Wiggins and a first. So for the entire two finals runs era of Heat basketball, what you get back is Wiggins, Rozier, a 1 and a 2.
How does it make you feel when I say you traded Dragic, Precious Achiuwa, and a first-round pick for Rozier? Ugh.
That's really the only one that actually stands out there as like
woof,
poor management. But the rest of it is understandable. If you look at every other team that makes runs to the finals, it's not like they then preemptively trade their roster. You got play out of those players. So when you say you got nothing, that's not true. You went to two finals with them, and when they were free agents, they got better offers elsewhere because you learned your lesson from the previous time that you did this and overpaid guys like Tyler Johnson.
That feels like some spin cycle when your roster is now Bam, Hero, Davion Mitchell, Ware, Jovic, Larson, Fontecchio, Love, Kyle Anderson, Jaquez, Wiggins, Rozier, Highsmith, Johnson.
Yeah, and everybody was salivating over the Hawks yesterday, like the guys that they added are these giant difference makers.
Would you like Porzingis on this team?
Dude, of course.
Would you like?
But that's not the position that they were in.
Would you like a dude?
To add guys just to add them, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I get.
Would you like Luke Kennard?
I want to be better in the Eastern Conference. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but I just know.
But we trust that
I don't
want to
overpay. Whatever, it is what it is.
If Dan had said that exact same thing and the team was the New York Knicks, you would all be ripping the Knicks and laughing at them like they were a laughingstock. But instead, now we're going to be like, well, Pat Riley has a plan. And now we're going to be on a Pat Riley apology tour for 3 hours.
Zaz started with he's bummed. He didn't start with I hope. He started with I hope he has a plan, but it didn't seem like it was confident that there's a plan.
I'm bummed, dog.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the passion. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We can't go out, man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right there, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
As Zaz just mentioned during the Shadow Show, he is someone who, under all circumstances, refuses to look ridiculous, and he does not like that the Miami Heat have made him look ridiculous.
I hate looking ridiculous.
I have not looked up the stats, but now Duncan Robinson has gone to Detroit. Detroit is on the ascent. Detroit is a very good young team they can use when they've got an alleged gambling problem on their roster. They can use the shooting of Duncan Robinson. And I'm doing the eye test here. I've not looked at the numbers. Mike Ryan disputed this when I said it yesterday. Duncan Robinson is the best shooter in Heat history. Do I have that wrong?
You don't have that wrong.
Well, what are you going by? Are you going statistically, or are you going by...
I'm legitimately going by when he shoots, I think it's going in more than any other player who's ever shot a basketball for the Miami Heat. I haven't looked at any other numbers. It's simply based on when that person's shooting, do I believe it's going in more than at other times people have been wearing that uniform.
By that metric, Udonis Haslem, greatest shooter of all time in Heat history, because that little short corner J was always going in no matter what.
Obviously, you start... I'll put Duncan second, but obviously Ray Allen is the top shooter. Just Game 6, that shot, number 1, all time. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what numbers you say.
Oh, but that's a moment, though.
But it's just, that's the shot. You think of Miami Heat shooters, Ray Allen, that's the answer.
Okay, so you also think then that LeBron is the greatest player in Miami Heat history, not Dwayne Wade.
That elbow jumper, you could talk me into that elbow jumper putting LeBron on the Mount Rushmore.
Because that's the same argument. LeBron's the best player in Heat history, not Dwayne Wade. If Ray Allen's best shooter in Heat history, not Duncan
I
Robinson.
see what you're doing there. I'm not going to play that game with you.
Where's James Posey on the list? Because I felt confident when James Posey had the ball.
But tippy
it was
toe
probably
3.
the Sox, but I felt good about James Posey.
Do you mean Mike Miller?
No.
Because you say socks, like Mike Miller
No, he
was
had the
shoeless
tall
one.
socks. James
Oh,
Posey
okay.
had the
I thought
super
you
tall
said socks like he shot with
Come
socks.
on, man.
That
Are
was
you a
Mike
Heat
Miller.
fan or not?
Do you feel like people
join the
confuse
party.
James Posey and Mike Miller often?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get any other nominations from the entirety of anyone who has ever watched basketball that has James Posey as the best shooter in Heat history.
No.
You stumbled onto another Wild Billy Wednesday.
You guys don't know how to play this
Your
game.
hats, partners. It's about to get wild.
Stats be damned. When James Posey had the ball, and I know I'm alone on this island.
That's what people say when they're wrong, by the way. Stats be damned.
Well, no, they also say what Chris says. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care what anyone says. I'm right about
Well,
that.
you started with I didn't look at any of the numbers, but what's the difference there?
I admitted all of it.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
I just don't do it every single time with every argument. Usually my arguments have a little more information than that.
Can we put on the poll best Heat shooter of all time? Duncan Robinson, Ray Allen. You guys are not
Put
gonna
Antoine
answer.
Walker on there too.
Well,
I
James
felt
Posey,
good about
tippy
that's
toe
the
3.
island I'm on, but I
Exactly
loved
right.
Antoine Walker.
What about the man with the golden arm?
I cannot believe the Jason Capono erasure.
That is a terrible nickname, by the way.
Awful.
The man with the golden arm.
Oh, I
Awful
loved that one,
nickname.
actually.
Eric Reed tried to get that off the
Bit
ground.
too wordy.
It is. Has a nickname ever worked that has that many words
It's a
in
sentence.
it? The man with the golden arm is a 6-word.
Also, do you feel like you shoot with your arm? Like
No.
you shoot with your hand, your
No,
wrist?
It was a truly terrible nickname. What did Capono? Get me the numbers officially. Just what are the numbers officially on 3-point shooting for Ray Allen, Duncan Robinson, and James Posey?
Well, I have the 3-point field goal percentage leaders in team history for Miami. Now, this isn't about volume. Jason Capono is at the top. He shot 49% from 3 as a member of the Miami Heat, which is insane. But if you want to look at Ray Allen and Duncan Robinson and compare them, their percentages are essentially identical. So Ray Allen in 2 years shot 39.8% from 3 for Miami. Over 7 years, it was 39.7% for Duncan Robinson, but he did it on 7 3-point attempts per game, while Ray Allen did that on like 4 per game, so certainly the volume is different, but their minutes were the same. It's 26 minutes per game for Duncan, 26 minutes per game for Ray Allen. So they essentially played the same role on these two different teams.
Did you just say that Jason Capono shot 49% from 3 1 year? Has anyone...
Not 1 year, as a member of the Miami Heat for however long that
2 years,
was.
I think it was. 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, the reason he didn't play more shooting that well is because he couldn't guard anybody. If you think Tyler Hero couldn't guard anybody, Capono had feet made of cement that he lifted off the ground to shoot that 3. But I can't imagine that anyone has ever shot a higher percentage than that playing for a basketball team from 3.
He did it on 2 attempts per game.
Yeah, it was 1 for 2.
That's
1
amazing.
for 2.
But still,
Stats be damned, though. We're having that conversation.
well, he won
No,
the
we
3
need all
point.
the stats.
He'd be taking 15 threes a game in the modern NBA.
He won the 3-point competition, so it's not
Twice.
it's not just that he was taking 2 3-pointers a game, but do we have a lot of players ever who have shot better than 50% from 3? Because off the top of my head, I cannot remember seeing a stat line that has somebody. Did Kyle Korver shoot over 50?
I think Tim Legler led the league one time shooting over 50%, believe it or not.
In the 2006 and 7 season, so he joined for the championship team year 1, he only took actually 1 3-pointer per game, shot 39.6%. But in the 2006 and 7 season, on 3 attempts per game, he shot 51.4% from 3.
He was a starter on that team.
So Zaslow knows his basketball, and if you were listening last night to ESPN Overnight Game Night with Zaslow and Norris Cole,
Yeah. Couple champs chopping it up.
Zaz's power went down, and I felt for the poor producer
man.
who had to go the rest of the way with Norris Cole when Zaz's power went out in his house.
Oh man, so you got to understand, like I'm paired with Norris Cole, okay, which was fun. I'd never worked with him before, but like he's not a radio host. He's essentially like an analyst, you know, and the show's going great, okay. Literally 90 seconds. It's almost 1 a.m. 90 seconds left in the show. My power goes out in the house. It started to storm. Power goes out in the house. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm obviously kicked off the show. And for the final 90 seconds, our producer Josiah did an excellent job. He had to drive the show. With
90
Norris
seconds.
Cole.
I mean, that's nothing.
I
thought you were
know.
talking about 90 minutes.
At
90
1
seconds.
a.m.
Yeah.
also.
But then I started thinking, well, you know, I don't know if you understand how time zones work. But
I
that's
don't.
10 p.m. in the
Yeah.
West Coast.
Okay.
All right. That's the way it goes. 3 hours behind.
Still 90 seconds on the West Coast, though.
Right. Like, but then I was just thinking, oh my God, what if it happened 90 minutes left? Oh, that'd have been bad.
How's the family van doing for Norris Cole? That was his thing.
Right. I think
didn't
it's
ask?
still parked underneath in the arena.
Really?
I think so.
They kept that?
Oh, yeah, for
They
a while.
kept his
for
family
sure.
van is just parked in the arena?
Yeah.
Why? How do they get around?
I don't know if it was still functional.
Billy, always great at asking the questions no one can answer.
Sorry.
I'm trying to find a longer nickname than the one we said before. Charles Barkley, round mound to rebound. This is hard.
That's quick, though. That's round mound.
That's
Yeah.
a good one, though, and it rhymes, right? If it was the man with the golden arm and somehow there was a farm in there somewhere, farm and arm, if you got a rhyme somewhere, but it hurts to have. What is there a longer nickname that has worked than the round mound of rebound?
You all right?
Yeah, sorry.
Just want to make sure.
I appreciate the help with that. What are the details, Billy, since you want to know so much about the Norris Cole van? I don't know anything about the Norris Cole van.
It was a giant thing during the Heat's championship run. The Norris Cole family van was a thing that was outside of the arena.
They
because
allowed fans to come by and sign it.
That was the story about how it was that he would get to like all the games and stuff growing up. So they brought the family van there. The fans signed. It was a big rallying thing around this Heat team. I'm surprised you guys don't know about this family van. It's big Heat Nation over here. Don't know about James Posey and his socks. Don't know about the family van.
We do know about James Posey and his socks. We
Called
don't
him Mike
know
Miller.
We don't know that James Posey is the shooter that Ray Allen and Duncan Robinson is. We got Jeremy heightened enough that he started a sentence with dude, which is the first sign in a debate that someone is unraveling.
Is that like a sign of an
right.
aggression from him?
I mean, that's basically him pulling a knife.
It's like mother effer.
It's when Jeremy hits you with a dude to start a sentence, it's like someone else shivving you in prison.
The question was, do you want Porzingis? That's what he answered, dude. To.
Well, he's right to be upset by the fact that I tried 3 different times to point out, hey, Lillard waved is something I wasn't expecting to see together, and everyone wanted to talk about something else, including the championship fortunes of the Atlanta Hawks in what you guys keep calling a wide open East, as if the Cavs don't exist.
The Cavs are frauds, Dan. We know that.
Okay, but the Hawks aren't?
The Hawks could be interesting.
Okay.
Could be interesting is the way we all like to analyze everything. Is, oh, there's something new. Wow,
That's
maybe
right.
that'll be good, and it's never good.
This is one of the things that has corrupted and contaminated all offseason talk is that the Hawks will always win the press conference in the offseason. And what? And the fan base wants simply change. The fan base in Miami doesn't want to keep going with a roster that they know is not good enough, and the roster looks and feels stale. I will not believe that this is what will head into the playoffs next year.
Playoffs. It better not head into the regular season. I mean, head into playoffs. Do you want anybody in the stands? Like I think they're at kind of a tipping point now when it comes to the fan base where there's going to be a reaction, a tangible reaction in the stands this year if the team looks like this again. I mean, you think the building's going to be packed on Wednesday night against Charlotte if they keep this roster?
That's why we were saying that they should get Kevin Durant, because like he would be a draw even if he's on a bad team, and then you have him down the road, or he's part of the Heat family, he's part of the Heat culture, he's part of the history of this team, knowing that they probably weren't going to build a championship contender, but at least you bring in this memorable person in NBA history to be part of your team for a season.
We're all going to look really silly if he makes a move for Giannis.
Not Zaz. Zaz will not look silly. There's no circumstance under which Zaz will not look silly.
I hate looking silly, and that's the part that bothers me most about what's going on with the Heat here, because I've had the confidence, or I have the confidence. I'm very confident. Everybody knows that about me. And I don't want them to make me look stupid. Right now, I feel like I look stupid, and I'd like them to do something.
Chris Cody, I felt that we as a show looked stupid for a number of different reasons yesterday, but one of them was you were out, your father said out loud, and I don't know what to believe anymore with your family, because you guys hid from me for 3 decades that Uncle Mike exists and has one eye. Greg Cody claimed on the show yesterday that he's a handyman. And I'm like, if Chris were here, there's no way he'd get away with that. I know Greg Cody, and unless he's decided to do something in the last 10 years I've never known him to do, which is simply learn, because he doesn't like to learn. Greg Cody's allergic to learning. Doesn't want any part of it. So him being a handyman or identifying as a handyman, I thought was a bold-faced lie. But I didn't have anyone here who could have questioned it.
Yeah, it's crazy that the bit with him, like with me and my brother, our whole life is he thinks he's everything. He thinks he's handy. He thinks he's Salt Life. He thinks he's a country soul. He thinks he's a reggae guy. He thinks he's everything. So it's just, yes, this is not surprising. Did he claim something about his mailbox?
No.
That he said, I think he tried to put up a mailbox recently. So I'm trying to. What did he say that was handy?
He said he was going to have a competition with Billy in which they tried to make some sort of furniture.
I think we settled on a table, but we'd have to get the lumber.
I would take Billy.
Thank you.
I could see Billy.
The thing about being a handyman, like if you're Greg, is you really just have to believe in your abilities to do it.
That's not really true.
Not true in any way.
It is true.
That's how you end up with a handyman with one hand.
That's a stupid thing to say.
That's not a stupid thing to say. You know who stops you from doing things the most? You. If you say that I can't build this table, guess what? You're never going to build that table. If you say I can, you can build one. I mean, it may, wobble from side to side, but you'll figure it out eventually. A bunch of I can't guys in here today.
Well, the power of positive thinking. Yeah, when Michael Jordan gives the graduation speech and says you can all be me, he's lying. The power of belief? No, there's fast twitch muscle.
No one should believe in themselves.
That's required.
The High Ayatollah of Slamola for Larry Nance, Sr.
That's bullshit. I never heard that.
Wait a minute.
Not a nickname you could have today, right?
Well, not a nickname you should have had then either.
Offensive that Jeremy even
Different
said
time,
it.
though.
The Ayatollah of Slamola.
I think we're fine.
The Houdini of the hardwood, Bob Cousy.
I like that one.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
4 words. The man with the golden arm.
The owl without a vowel, Bill Milkvy, MLKVY.
I like that one though.
Was there a question mark in his last name?
There is for me.
I think Greg said his dad was a carpenter.
He
is
was.
what happened,
Wild
right?
Bill. See, that's why I think my dad thinks he's handy.
Yeah,
his dad was.
His dad was a carpenter. He
That's
wanted
like a
to,
gene that gets passed down.
I'm trying to think what my dad has built.
He wanted to build. The story was he wanted to build a table around a tree, and then Uncle Richard, I think it was, he said was a know-it-all. And Uncle Richard came over and was constantly giving him tips on how it is that he should build said table. And he was annoyed because Uncle Richard was telling him, you need to use this corner, this or that, whatever. And then at the end, he ended up telling us, well, when you build something, you need to use this. And we realized Uncle Richard actually taught Greg a lesson that day that he still carries with him today.
Uncle Richard and my dad had a funny, tenuous relationship. I actually have a funny story. After Uncle Richard died.
What was that word?
Tenuous?
That's not a word.
To play on.
It's not.
You know what I
word.
meant.
What do you mean? It's a.
There's a lot of
play on?
tension in their relationship.
Yeah, tenuous.
Yeah,
Contentious.
I didn't know what you meant.
Contentious.
Contentious. There it is.
No.
See, everyone knew what I
We
meant.
can't say that first part.
I didn't know.
So this is actually a good story. Stay focused here. When Uncle Richard died, they were having the post-funeral thing at Aunt Bonnie's house. And my dad, who I had a nice, a weird relationship, a tenuous relationship with Uncle Richard. And one of their songs was the Beach Boys, one of the happy Beach Boys songs. So my dad...
Are there sad Beach Boys songs?
I don't
Put it
know.
on the poll at
Oh,
Le Batard
yeah, dude.
Show. Do you think of anything sad when you think of the Beach Boys?
So my dad, thinking of Uncle Richard, was playing a song that they connected of. It was a Beach Boys song, but visually, the optics. So after the funeral, my dad's driving to Aunt Bonnie's house for like the post-funeral thing, and Aunt Bonnie's brother is out front, and my dad rolls up to the post-funeral party blasting a Beach Boys song. So the visual of my dad, like happy song,
Windows down?
like windows down, like jamming to Beach Boys. So that like he went up to my dad and was like, "Why are you? This is a sad time.
It's
Why are you?
disrespectful. That
Why are
is.
you rolling up?" And my dad had to be like, "No. We connected over the Beach Boys. So this was actually me paying tribute, but just not a good look."
He should have just said, why can't I have an enjoyable car ride still?
Put it on the. Can you show like? Are you allowed to jam out after a funeral?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Can you roll away from the funeral with the music too loud in the happy music too loud in your car? Jeremy, you made a face on our lack of Beach Boys knowledge. Is there something horrible in the past of Brian Wilson or one of the Beach Boys?
Yeah, Brian Wilson was like extremely depressed. Pet Sounds is one of the most beautifully tragic albums ever written, maybe the best album ever written, including the song I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, which not only is this self-reflective, sad mental health song, but it's actually Kevin Love's favorite Beach Boys song.
I'm pretty sure he rolled up to "Sitting on Top of the World." Like it was like.
Yeah, I think of the Beach Boys, though, as all Surfin' USA type of happy songs and just bounce around. But you're right. There is a
The real
history of
heads, no.
sadness, so we need a different question. I do think of Beach Boys music as being happy, though. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you think of Beach Boys music as being happy?
I like the idea of Greg pulling up to the funeral with Surfin' USA blasting out his car.
Oh, he's just wildly inappropriate, and then will defend his action no matter what, and will take several days before he concedes.
The thing about it is, if he's telling the truth, it's a play. He's good. But Uncle Richard not around anymore. There's no one really to verify that they connected over Beach Boys. So my dad may have just been jamming out and then needed a cover.
He's not a handyman, though, and he does have Dunning-Kruger the same way that Stugotz does, where he just delusionally thinks he's good at every single thing, even though he's 70 years old. But you guys are reminding me of the greatest thing that my father taught me around handyman stuff, which is have friends who can fix things, because that's all I saw in my childhood. My brother used to tell the story of the scarring of being a Boy Scout, and my father helped him with the car, and as soon as the race started, the wheels fell off and the thing just hit the ground like as a block of wood, and he had to quit. He had to leave the Boy Scouts in disgrace.
Had to leave the Scouts?
Well, because you can imagine, right? You're sitting there, you're 36 years old, you let go of the car, and then the wheels fall off. How embarrassing.
Pretentious.
How you feeling about
It's gonna
that?
sit with me for a while.
Contentious.
Contentious. See,
Why?
I was looking at you guys like, what are you guys talking about? This is clearly a word. Contentious.
I like the idea of Lebo in a Boy Scouts uniform.
It didn't really fit, right?
Leave the Scouts in disgrace.
Well, my brother ended up doing all the sports things with us, even though he was fast as the running back. He'd just keep moving his head around because the way the wind whistled through his ear hole. So we'd snap the ball, and my brother'd just be standing there in the backfield, making his ear hole make whistling noises, and as the play that's designed for him goes in the other direction. He'd also stop for like a 4-leaf clover if he was in the open field.
Do you think he takes off the patches from the scout outfit when he leaves in disgrace? Do you have to leave it behind?
They rip it off you as you walk out the door.
I mean, I feel like just the car falling apart was disgrace enough. You walk out of the Scouts never to return, just ashamed of your father. embarrassed because your father isn't good at fixing things. My father didn't know how to put up a painting. My father didn't know how to put up a
Wasn't he an
picture.
engineer?
Yes. He ran a fiberglass plant. Like he knew scientific things. He just didn't know how to do anything around the house.
That's like the one thing I can do is put up a painting.
Nothing.
Isn't it funny that you have these sets of Cuban men that grew up at the same time, had the same experience, yet there's a section of them who can fix anything
That's
and
right.
do anything, and there's another section that is equally as large that can't do anything.
But they were friends with the people who can.
Exactly. The problem is our dads and our grandfathers were on that side of the line.
Your dad can't fix anything.
My dad
right?
can't fix shit. Neither can my grandfather. He used to work business. He used
That's
to play catch.
that's how it gets handed down, though. When your grandpa can't fix shit, neither can your father. That's why I can't fix shit. None of these people, the Le Batards, can't fix anything. The women can. The men cannot.
That's how I was just about to say. My mother-in-law, I believe the last time I had a flat tire, my mother-in-law changed it, which is not a fun sentence to say.
My wife does that stuff around our house.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Would you be embarrassed? Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Would you be embarrassed if you had to call your mother-in-law to fix your flat
It was
tire?
not a good.
Don't you guys want to know how to do things, though?
I know how to. I just don't want to screw it up. So I'm like, if
No,
I
screw it
the
on.
hardest part about changing a tire is knowing where to put the thing to lift the car up.
The jack.
I don't want to bend my leg. I don't want to
You don't want to
where's
dent the undercarriage.
Right. It's like which I may have done in my, when I
Yeah.
was like 17,
We all
18.
have.
You try to lift a car,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the car is just denting and not lifting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
The jack, one of your father's favorite sentences when he says there's a fact.
Once again,
Jack.
you knew what I was talking about.
I do, but your trouble with words is disconcerting today. Billy did know
you get
what
that
you were
right?
talking about, and Billy did have it right when he said to the group of us, don't you guys want to learn anything?
You can learn how to fix anything on YouTube now. Like, it's incredible. I went into my car my previous car, RIP, was totaled. But I went in there and I fixed the thing that's on the spark plug, or not the spark plug, I guess on the battery, the mount, because it was
Get it
saying that I
right.
had a bad. It said that I had a bad battery, but I didn't. I had to go in there. I had to change it. Just watch it on YouTube. It was like this thing. I ordered it on Amazon. It was there.
Cabin filters you can change on YouTube in 2 seconds.
Dude, cabin filters.
What a
Can I tell you
scam.
something right now? And I'm sorry to all our mechanics and mechanical scammers out there, but if you go to a mechanic's or a garage or whatever, and they tell you we can fix your air filters, we can fix your cabin filter, and there's 2 filters, it's going to cost you like $250 because that's what they'll tell you. You're like, oh wow, like that sounds like a good deal. It is absolutely not. You can buy those 2 pieces for like $30 combined probably, and change them in 10 minutes.
And then I can stare at my engine for like 3 hours, being like, "Where does this go?"
No, you just go on YouTube,
See, I
you
love
find
how
a video,
so
you're done in 5
with
minutes.
the internet, we trust the internet on you. Like, what if I was like a terrible person, I would just put up a bunch of how-to videos, doing it incorrectly.
There's all kinds of accounts on Twitter where the blue check marks are How about?
I'm
how
gonna
do you
start
know you're not
tricking
getting,
people.
How do you know you're not getting the NBA Centel version of fixing cars on YouTube?
Before you put this in, you spit on it.
Okay, I have fixed enough things with the help of YouTube that there isn't a sinister plot conspiracy of people who are pranking.
I don't know that.
Man, I want to be a fly on a wall for
There's
that.
no Barry McCockiner of spark plugs.
I don't know
okay?
that.
There's a nice space for that though.
You're too lazy to change your tire. You're not going to spend the time making videos to trick people into
All right, if
breaking
you want to
their
change
cars.
your tire first, roll it down a hill just to make sure it's got good treading, and then you just see some idiot like.
I am embarrassed by how this show has talked about all of this. I want to apologize on behalf of the manly men in the audience who are indeed handymen, who are hearing everything we're saying and
speak for me.
hearing a show that can't be bothered to even check out YouTube's quick explanation on how to fix things.
Now we trust the internet.
I would also like to apologize to the women in the audience who are also handy and think it's a little lame
praised-
of us
what do
to think it's pathetic that
You said
we
pathetic.
can't do things.
We said Chris's mother-in-law can do things and that we can't. I am specifically warding off the judgment of men against men for not being handymen when Greg Cody alleges that he's a handyman when I know him to not be.
He at least tries. You guys aren't even putting in the effort to try to fix things.
I would be, if we had some sort of Olympics on fixing things, I would finish last. I would be the worst of all of us, but not a lot worse than some of you.
You're thinking a new edition of gold, silver, bronze, or did not podium today?
Yes, let's. Well,
Good game yesterday. Tony loved it.
Another wordy one.
Well, do you think I've heard accusations around the office, Billy, that you're of the belief that Tony is now making parenting decisions simply to spite you?
Yeah, I think last week Tony was in a patented pickle.
You know, they sell pickles in my movie theater.
Really? How much?
It's $2.99.
Is that so? Well, I think that last week Tony was in a patented pickle, and we discussed it on air, where we said it seemed as though
For it to be a pickle, Billy, not to interrupt you.
Well, you
For
are.
it to be a pickle, it had to be something that is a rock and a hard place, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle of trying to decide. This was a very easy decision for me.
Yeah. I think that last week, for those of you who are catching up on the show, last week, Tony, congratulations, had
Thank you, buddy.
a child. And it turns out his child was born 6 months ago. And we were discussing whether or not Tony would be someone who celebrates half birthdays. And
Which
we
I'm
kind
not.
of got the feeling that Tony might celebrate half birthdays. Tony, one time, if I remember correctly, had a party at a brewery for a dog, and we were kind of like, what's going on here?
A dirt day.
So he had a whole party for a
The
dog
dog
at a
birthday
brewery.
was not for
he
me.
invited all of us. We were like, no, thank you, Tony. That's not what we're going to do here. So, anywho, Tony has a child, and half birthday was coming up. So last week we were discussing whether or not Tony would have a half birthday.
His child?
So here is the pickle that Tony was in. Do I celebrate my child and give my child lasting memories via photographs that they will see years down the road, because a child at 6 months won't remember anything? But do I celebrate my child? Do I do this for the family? Do I do this for my wife? Or do I prove Billy wrong and not throw a half birthday for my child and do the good parenting thing and do nice things for my family and my wife and everyone involved? And I was made aware that Tony's wife wanted to have a half birthday party. No. And Tony said, no, we're not having a half birthday party now because of the conversation at work last week. So Tony found himself in a pickle, and he sided proving me wrong over the happiness and joy of his wife and family.
So it wasn't a full-blown birthday party. My wife wanted to get a cupcake to take pictures and stuff. and
That's
I
a
said,
half birthday. Yeah.
Not happening.
You said not happening.
Not happening.
For what reason?
Because we don't need the constructs of, oh, get a picture with a cupcake. It's your half birthday. No. It's 6 months. We celebrate it. We move on. That's it.
You put a cupcake in front of them, you see what they do with it. They like poke it.
No,
Yeah.
because then she puts it in her mouth. She can't eat
They
that
do
yet.
the thing. They put their feet in it. It makes a giant mess, and you're watching. You're like,
They start
what
to
are
grab
we
their hair
doing? This is a disaster. And they're like, it's so cute.
Avoided.
And then a year later, you look at it, you're like, it was kind of cute. I was getting upset about nothing.
So, Dan, I looked at my wife and I said, no, not going to happen. But I was looking at her, but I was really looking at Billy. Like Billy's form took over my wife, and I was like,
he's right.
nah.
Then you're making parenting
Spiting
decisions
me.
to
Of course.
spite
Spite me.
Billy. Okay.
Absolutely.
When really, I forgot that even happened until we came in today, and you're like, guess what? Didn't have a half birthday. I'm like, I
'Cause it
didn't
was
even give that
yesterday.
a second thought until today.
Well, now you'll never forget.
Yeah, you're ruining a child's life to spite me. Congrats.
Thank you.
It will be wonderful years from now when Tony is alone in sad dad village because his wife and the child have left, and he's just smiling because he's like, "But I did spite Billy.
I got him.
I didn't have a happy birthday. He thought I was going to have a happy birthday, and I did not have a happy birthday."
Imagine a crazy twist. Never mind.
So this is from Louis Riddick. Good work there, Billy.
Well, because it puts all of us in a bad spot. But I was going to say, imagine a crazy twist or something happens to my family, and then Tony's family leaves him, and they end up with me. After he was making all these decisions, breaking them up to spite me.
What a plot
And then
twist.
I win at the end.
So wait, so something happens to your family. All of my family goes to live with you, and now you become their father.
So it's not just his wife.
I'm the new daddy.
So, okay.
I'll fix all the problems that you have because your old daddy made poor decisions to spite me.
So many happy birthdays around here.
We celebrate quarter birthdays in this house. Get used to it.
So just to be clear, what just happened was that you didn't offer for Tony and the audience the mere possibility of you stealing his wife
And family.
But his is going somewhere else too.
You took his wife and 6-month-old, and you just said, "I'd like to add everything to my family. I don't want to eliminate my children or my wife."
Are you all living together? Like,
Yeah,
this is
it's
your new
everybody.
Well,
sibling?
no, in this horrible situation, which none of us want to happen, something happened to my family, so I was there.
okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to leave my family for Tony's family. I'm sure they're lovely, but I love my family more than his.
No, I thought
for
you
now.
were going to have both families. I thought Tony was
No,
going to be
no,
alone.
I can't handle any more kids.
There are different
honestly.
wings of the house.
Plus the dogs too.
I like it better as you just stole Tony's family and now he's lonely, but he has the victory over you on half birthday.
Oh, he's got to celebrate all the birthdays, and I don't have to do anything.
And he's got that victory forever. The victory.
Play PS5 finally.
You may be having a great time with your wife and his wife and your child.
No,
your
something
children.
happened to my family. It's a horrible
No,
situation.
no, I know.
We don't want this.
No, you've made it that. I've made it something different. I prefer you stealing the entirety of his family.
But you understand why I said never mind now, right?
Well, the part I don't understand is, as a professional broadcaster, why you start to say something and then offer it to the audience and then pull it back. It's not because I don't understand why you didn't say that you were thinking about stealing Tony's wife and child.
I wasn't thinking about it, just something that may happen based on the parenting decisions that he is making to spite me. It'd be the most ironic thing, I think. I don't know how irony works. The most ironic thing if he's trying to spite me, and what ends up happening is I end up winning.
I want to put in front of you this tweet from Louis Riddick.
What do you have to say?
We have a problem with him?
It felt like it. It felt like your tone suggested that there was a problem with Louis Riddick. What did he have to say?
Yeah.
As if he had said the wrong thing.
No. I could be the judge of that.
You are a judge, a journalist, a lawyer, a doctor, and a race war expert.
Yep.
So here is Louis Riddick on the Dolphins after they lured Darren Waller out of retirement, something I evidently was more excited about than just about anyone on earth, including Darren Waller yesterday. Dolphins are the very definition of uncertainty going into 2025, has zero idea what this team will look like, play like, come together like, chemistry-wise. Zero. Fascinating to me.
Sounds like the most exciting Dolphin team in my lifetime.
Is this team fascinating? Is it what's fascinating about a team that hasn't won a playoff game in a quarter century and now has just a bunch of question marks and whatever players you've seen be great in a Dolphin uniform so far are not on the in the prime of their career, I guess, outside of Tua.
I think what he's telling you there is you look at it on paper, and certainly there's a lot of talent on both sides of the football. So, hey, they could be really good. Or they could be this year's total hot mess. They could be like the worst team in the league, and just everything goes wrong.
This is just frustrating because we had like a 2-year stretch, a year and a half stretch of being good.
Yeah.
Like it took so long. We finally got there.
I like trying this.
I was like, we have a good team. We've arrived, and now it's gone again. And now everyone is back to just thinking we're a joke. And it's like,
Yeah.
we had a few injuries to our defensive line. I know we made some trades, but it's like the team's not that different, actually, that it was a few years ago.
But you said they were good, and they weren't.
They were, though.
Right, they're not that different. Like they weren't good last year.
They were interesting, but they didn't win a playoff game. Like
Because they got injured at the end of their good season 2 years ago. They got battered at the end. Who was that old defensive lineman from the Chiefs they signed? Like Houston, they signed for that playoff game against the Bills. That team going into that year was good on both sides of the ball. They got battered with injuries at the end of the season, and it all fell apart. And it just stinks because it seems like other teams have injuries and then get back to being good. And it seems like the Dolphins were good for like one season, got a ton of injuries, and then just can't get back there.
The teams that are good tend to be teams that are good even if they have injuries in that sport. Like
That's fair. No depth on that team.
I understand what you're saying. It's a perfectly logical explanation for how it is the blueprint exploded on a win-now franchise. They started the season having lost whatever they were, 9-2 or whatever it is.
We can agree it ended with the loss on Monday Night Football to Tennessee. That was the beginning of the end of everything.
It just always ends in December around here in this century. But what Riddick is saying about the Dolphins as an entity is true, right? Mm-hmm. Because everyone is looking at the Dolphins and saying, well, if at quarterback, you have the greatest of injury risks that will obviously detonate anything that you were planning in terms of team building. Then, of course, you're a bit of a mystery. But he's doing that because of the Darren Waller signing, right? Because nobody knows what that is. You can't have any idea what that is when the last 3 years have just been body problems and head problems.
Oh, I think it's all of it because in the span of the 24 hours, you have a team that brought in Minkah Fitzpatrick and also traded for Darren Waller, two very big names, and it's still like, I don't know what this team is.
You need Phillips and Chubb, right? That's like their defensive line has to be what it was a couple years ago, or else it's just if Chubb. If they're not what they were, they're not going to be a good team. That's it.
How about their offense being what it was a couple years ago? Because it feels like that kind of got found out, and everybody's like, oh, what do we do now? We can't throw over the middle.
How about this one? How about in 25 years, you keep using draft picks on offensive linemen, and some of them can block?
Says goodbye, sweet Clevelander.
I should tell the audience that we've got a bit of an emotional week, I would say, here this week as we are leaving this studio. It's been an eventful 2 years where the show has struggled and groaned under the weight of trying to build a business. And we're going to move into new studios. Everything is moving after, I think it's close to 10 years here. And we're going to remember some of the things from the Clevelander because as expensive as the property value has gotten around here, the neighborhood has really deteriorated. There has been
so is my health.
There's been a lot of
but that's your fault.
Shootings here recently and assassinations, plural. And we need to get out of here. And next week,
that move is brought to you by Miller Lite. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Next week is going to be a little bit difficult because we're going to be in the change. And these are not your problems. They are our problems. But we ask for yet more patience after 2 years of trying to build this thing. We're excited about getting into new studios. And we will remember the Clevelander throughout the rest of the week here, because one of the great memories I have, Stugotz, it really is one of my favorites as I've gotten late in life and have learned to appreciate some of this nonsense that we get to do every day, is the weekend before we were going to go on ESPN radio and start with whatever it is we were doing with them. They were going to make this studio look like all the other studios, which is just blue paneling behind us that would be nondescript. And my brother and I spent the entire weekend here putting all of this stuff up And the reason that it's one of my favorite memories is because I remember the screaming phone calls on Monday when no one had been informed that that's what we would look like, and they didn't want us to look like that. Or no one had given them a heads up, I should say. It's not that they didn't want us to look like that. It's that they were going for homogenized at the beginning, and we put up all these tiles that we're at some point here going to just auction off because they've been here for 10 years representing us as we make a move to become a bigger business. We've got, Mike, do you know how many employees we have now? I don't know how many employees we have now.
I walked into today's pre-production meeting and I was a little stunned at how many people were in that room, considering it's just jarring seeing how we've started. And there was a lot of people here when we were doing HQ. It was even tighter back then in many respects because we had the equipment. But I think the stark contrast is from the pandemic days when ESPN would only allow you and me in these studios and people were zooming in. So maybe I'll have fonder memories when we get out of here, and I'll look back on some of the stuff that we did here and created here fondly, but I cannot wait to get out of this godforsaken building, thanks to Miller Lite.
Yeah.
Just 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Winner
of 3 World Beer Cups. They don't just give those things away.
You have said that this place is haunted. You have come in hot from L.A. talking way too much about sponsorships and deals. We are moving. This is a growing business, and part that you left out was the answer to my question. How many employees do we have?
I don't know.
A lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Because there's a difference between full-time employees and part-time employees, but in terms of like people that are here, it seems like 87.
It's not here, but it's not just here, but it's a lot of people. It's much, much more than what's on air. Ben Solak has tweeted after the Waller trade, quote, "I am grotesquely fascinated by the 2025 Miami Dolphins." Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are you grotesquely fascinated by the 2025 Dolphins?
Waller's a guy that, like, you could see getting to camp and not making it out of camp, or also like, oh, wow, he's still got something left in the tank, and then he's a contributor, right? Like, you have absolutely no idea. I think yesterday, most people, aside from like the very optimistic Dolphins fans, were kind of like, this is kind of a weird one here. Like, what do they think that they're going to get out of him? He hasn't been that productive in a number of years, but maybe now his body's healed. Maybe he'll be the guy that's like, 32, 33 that comes back and is going to play again, and he'll be fine because he's been able to rest for a couple years. But also, if he doesn't make it out of camp, I don't think anyone would be that shocked, right?
But Mike McDaniel's probably pitching him, you'll be Jonnu Smith, right?
Mike McDaniel is on the hottest of seats, is he not?
The hottest?
Not the hottest. They can be hotter.
If the Dolphins do not, I'm trying to think of what is viewed as a success for him this season.
Win a playoff game.
Yeah, but if he wins a playoff game, he's safe, he's good.
Yeah. They haven't done it in 25 years.
Yeah, but even winning a playoff game, I feel like with this roster and the fact that they're aging, you've wasted Tyreek Hill. Like, you didn't get out of Tyreek Hill what you wanted to get out of Tyreek Hill.
I don't know. Show up in a big game.
I think if this team is like, it sounds terrible, and I don't want this to happen, but I feel like if they just get back to being good in the regular season, get to the playoffs, and lose again, I think he might be safe.
My apologies for spending this much time on a loser regional team that isn't interesting in the offseason except for doing things that people are like, huh? Where it's not interesting because they're getting better. It's interesting just because you have no idea.
What was it? They were grotesquely interesting?
We also do that with the Heat, though. Like, they're by record a losing team. They're 37-45.
Yeah,
Losers.
but in the last 5 years, they've been to the championship, and in the last 20 years, they took this city from the Dolphins because of the amount of winning that Dwayne Wade did. This franchise, since you've been an adult, Billy, this franchise hasn't won a playoff game. It is a laughingstock nationally.
Yeah, but if they win a playoff game, they have the city back. Like, they have leased the city to the other teams. People are dying to get back on a good Dolphins
team. Do you know
team.
how absurd it is what I'm saying, though? You didn't have a driver's license the last time the Miami Dolphins won a playoff game.
Who was the youngest here since the Dolphins won?
I was 5 years old.
I was 5 the last time they won a playoff.
All right, so you have never seen
My
them win a
entire
playoff
lifetime
game.
they've been mediocre.
You've never seen them win a playoff game. Then.
Yeah, they're a mediocre franchise.
Zaslow mentioned earlier the idea that next year will be the first in a long time that he believes the Miami Heat attendance streak will be in jeopardy. Can you guys find for me? I believe the Miami Heat have one of the longest sold-out streaks anywhere in sports.
Yeah.
I think it's the longest in basketball.
I think it goes back to 2010, I think.
What happened that year? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where that started. That would probably happen in a lot of cities.
But it continued a couple bad years in between.
I know, but it started in 2010, and some of the numbers since then, I think, have been a little bit suspicious. Where I don't feel like the arena is actually.
You feel
sold
like there's been
out,
some empty seats,
but it looks like they needed to keep their streak alive. So I don't know if I guess I'm accusing them of fudging numbers. But do you believe that sold out streak is true? That they've been actually sold out all of those games since 2010. Billy is shaking his head.
No one believes that that's true. If you're a reasonable person, there's plenty of tickets available for every game. They're not sold out every game. This is just David Sampson attendance numbers for the Miami Heat.
I don't feel comfortable totally making that accusation, even though I know sports teams do that all the time. But in Miami, I do have general questions. If you've sold out for 15 years at a sports event, whether or not that can ever be real.
I don't understand. So you're telling me that they can not be sold out and they could just say, another sellout.
Well, that's Sampson said they were always lying about the numbers. But
right, but Sampson was never able to say we're sold out.
That is correct. The thing that makes some of this difficult in this sports town is the last game that the Dolphins did play in the playoffs wasn't on television locally because it wasn't sold out in time. So there was the last playoff game the Miami Dolphins played.
Lamar Smith game.
Did not air locally because it didn't sell out.
I drove to Orlando to watch the game.
Did you really?
Yep. I was in school at that time, but I was home from school, and so I went back early to watch the game.
You just drove outside. How far out? Is it 3.5 hours out that you have to drive for the local? How far out do you have to drive in order to get the local broadcast when it's been blacked out locally?
I don't remember, but I was like, all right, I guess we're driving to Orlando today to watch the Dolphins.
I thought Orlando was like the place. I thought the Orlando line was where it is that you could go see a Dolphin game. That
Great
was
game.
Back there.
Worth the drive.
You had to be able to see it in like Vero Beach or something, a couple hours away.
I am glad that Zaslow's here as both judge and journalist. He's also a doctor, a lawyer, and a race war expert. I'd like to get some rulings from him if I could as a judge in just a moment. We're going to get to that. But before we get to that, just the Damian Lillard thing from yesterday. An NBA executive has been quoted anonymously as saying that the Bucks are reckless, that bringing in that much Miles Turner for that much money is a super curiosity. What are you laughing about?
Because why are they reckless? Why aren't they allowed to do with their roster what they want? Why is it I mean, is it a bad choice? Yeah, probably, but it's reckless. Reckless for whom?
For the Bucks.
But it's their franchise. They can do what they want. It's their roster.
Reckless because you might lose Giannis because it's not the move that he wants?
Well, which do you think was more likely? Losing Giannis by bringing in Miles Turner or losing Giannis by not bringing in Miles Turner?
I would assume the reason that GM would consider this move or their flurry of moves reckless is the multiple years where when you don't really know how this is going to work out with the complementary pieces, where Giannis and sometimes was kind of playing center last year, so how does Miles Turner complement that? I can understand why a GM would look at what they're doing and go, whoa, you're committing a lot of money long-term to a roster that if you don't have Giannis is going to probably be a disaster.
But which is more reckless? Doing this or not doing it and risking losing Giannis? That's more reckless.
Well, I would say and will say that the Bucks have more information than we do. And because they have more information than we do, I'm assuming that they're doing every possible thing to keep Giannis, or they already know that Giannis is gone, and so they're doing every possible thing to replace Giannis. Windhorse has said on television that if Halliburton hadn't gotten injured, the Pacers would have likely paid the tax and just tried to keep Miles Turner.
Dan, have you looked at the potential starting lineup for the Milwaukee Bucks next season? It is sad. Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Kyle Kuzma, Giannis, Miles Turner.
Portis is in there somewhere, right? No?
Six-man, and they might trade him too.
The thing that I wanted to talk about, though, from yesterday, and I still want to talk about, and for some reason I cannot keep the attention span engaged from our basketball fans. They keep changing the subject on me to the future transactions as opposed to what happened yesterday, which is I saw a headline that read Damian Lillard waived, and it was confusing to me. And I know he's injured, and I know that he's the age that he is, and I know that you've spent a year, more than a year, knowing that Damian Lillard isn't what he was. But to have a contract that has 2 years on it, $110 million, and to have the Bucks say, waived, we have no use for you, and the punctuation on this part of your career has been about as disastrous as it could be for someone who was in your position at the end in Portland. It's not something we've ever seen before, and for some reason around here yesterday, everybody wanted to skip right past it because of how quickly we will discard even the most famous of basketball players.
How about that trade was just 2 years ago, and literally all of the pieces in that trade are no longer with the teams they were traded to. Boston, Portland, Milwaukee, none of those guys are on those teams anymore. It's only 2 years ago.
The interesting part about that, because I remember what Woj wrote about Portland at the time and how it was a bit of poetry that was overwritten on behalf of, just people being fascinated by GM transactions. But the Miami Heat did not believe the Boston Celtics could get into the game and create a Drew Holiday package to get Drew Holiday from them, and didn't believe that anyone had a better offer than what they were offering for Damian Lillard. But once Boston offered Time Lord and the pieces that they offered that were broken, right? Brogdon, just a bunch of physical pieces that were broken, the Heat did concede by their assessment that the offer that Boston made was better than the offer that they had on the table. And so while we look at it in retrospect and say those were a bunch of damaged pieces, like Brogdon and Williams and those guys didn't end up being any good, the bet that Portland was making was that some of them would indeed be good, and the Heat's assessment on that was that the pieces that were offered there were better than what the Heat were offering.
But the Heat are likely saying to themselves right now, we're glad we didn't make the Lillard trade, right? I mean, even without the Lillard's going to miss most of next season, like even before that, they're glad they didn't make the trade, right?
They are, but I still want to simply concentrate as, Damian Lillard right now has to feel a bit broken and shell-shocked, physically broken, but shell-shocked that he's in a position that the last part of his career has been so mangled that his headline has the word waived in it. Like, the last time I remember sort of being Brandon Roy in terms of potential, where I'm like, oh, it's just all over. Like, there's no chance that he recovers from any of that. I saw I got aggregated for saying that Lillard is now done as a star. Like, that's the most obvious thing in the world, is it not? That he's done as a star, that person will never be an important player. Doesn't mean he can't make baskets, doesn't mean he won't be a role player, but leading a team, being a centerpiece on a team, or being the second best player on a team, that's not a good team. Like, his movement is going to be affected by that injury in a way that has made the Bucks make the assessment that has no value, even though we have to pay it $50 million a year. Just go away. Just get off of the roster. I still can't really get my head around it, even understanding that this is a player that has been injured for a while. And I guess a lot of people have moved on from Damian Lillard before I moved on from Damian Lillard.
But you would acknowledge Damian Lillard yesterday, like even though maybe it was shocking originally when he finds out, wow, I'm getting waived, Damian Lillard was a big winner yesterday. Like a huge winner yesterday. I don't know if he got to a place where he liked Milwaukee, he adjusted to it, he was okay with being in Milwaukee, but his employer yesterday literally told him, here is all of your money, not a penny short, and guess what else? Go do whatever you'd like. We're not limiting the things you could do. Here is all of your money, and you can do whatever you want, which is essentially what he wanted 2 years ago, and what he wanted was to come to Miami. He didn't get what he wanted. Well, now you get all of the money and do whatever you want. Like, he was a big winner yesterday, Damian Lillard.
The Athletic reported that he was, quote, elated
I'm sure.
with what happened yesterday because of that exact thing. He gets all of his money, and now he can go choose wherever he wants to go. He can pick whatever contender he wants to play for. He was elated, is how they put it.
Also, Chris Haynes, though, reported that Giannis didn't like what they did yesterday, and we were talking about how you always have to go to the roots on who's reporting what and why something's being leaked. Chris Haynes is known as being Lillard's guy. He's the one who has perpetual access to Lillard. What did you make of the report that Giannis wasn't happy about what they did yesterday, trading for Miles Turner?
Not believable. It's just not. I mean, maybe Chris Haynes has bad information. Not believable. Like, Giannis is upset that in a year from now, he's not going to be able to play anymore with a 36-year-old coming off of an Achilles injury. Giannis upset about that?
Chris Haynes' information is rarely wrong. Like, this is not somebody whose information is disputed very often.
I would think if he got that inclination from whoever it would have been that's close to Giannis, it would be because he just didn't like how it was handled. Because the reports that are out there, including from Chris Haynes himself, are that Dame wanted to spend his time rehabbing in Portland so that he could be around his kids. We know his personal life has been a little wild in the last few years, and that was something he wanted to do, and apparently Bucks management was not happy about that, which is what facilitated this decision. And if Dame was caught off guard, I can understand Giannis at least looking at his ownership and front office and saying, like, man, I don't love the way you guys went about that with a guy who I like.
But then that's a super misleading headline then to say Giannis not happy with the way it went down.
I don't know that it was a headline. It was just a piece of the reporting.
It could be more macro, too. The way that they stretched and waived it, all of a sudden you got money on your books for the next 5 years where you're trying to get pieces to be a contender, and you're looking around saying, we're paying how much for Miles Turner? What his original salary is plus what we waived Dame for? Like, that all adds up.
That's the recklessness that you're talking about, right? There's a tweet here from Yassi Guzlan, and it says the Damian Lillard trade had risk, and the worst-case scenario ends up happening. They're down Drew Holiday, an unprotected first, 2 swaps, and now they have to pay Lillard $22.5 million a year not to play for them for the next 5 seasons.
But that is an effect of today's NBA, where every one of these teams that has a star player is afraid. They're afraid of one day their star player coming into the office and saying, I'm not happy. And so as a result, this is the kind of stuff you have to do, because it doesn't matter if a guy's signed to a contract. You're a free agent every single year. That right there is the effect of today's NBA.
If I'm Lillard, I'd Bobby Bonilla it. Give me 5 over the next 20.
Let's put together the top 5 deferred contracts in the history of sports at Le Batard Show. Jeremy, do that quickly. I'm going to test you quickly. I'm not even going to give you very much time to do it quickly. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is every basketball player in the world a free agent while under contract?
I saw a clip of Steve Phillips explaining why, because I guess he was at the center of the contract negotiation there with Bobby Bonilla as to why it is that they did this deal with him where he would make all of that money. And it should surprise no one. It involved Bernie Madoff. So they were like, well, our thinking is that we owed him like $6 million, and we had this buyout that we'd pay him $29 over 30 years, and we had invested a lot of money with Bernie Madoff. So we thought if we gave Bernie this $6 million, we're going to make $100 million, whatever. We're going to make so much money that this is going to be financially such a great deal for us, because Bernie's going to make us so much more money that the fact that we're dragging this out for 30 years isn't really going to affect the Wilpons at all. So this is a great idea. And they're like, wow. And he's like, you're welcome, Dodgers, for the idea.
That's exactly what happened. The Wilpons did have a relationship with Madoff where they thought they'd get more money, and Bobby Bonilla was so terrified of going broke that he said, just give me $1 million a year for 20 years so that I can know that I'm going to have money coming in 2025. Is today Bobby Bonilla Day?
Yes, yesterday, yeah. I don't understand, though. What would have happened to the Wilpons if they just gave Bobby Bonilla the $6 million they owed him? They couldn't afford to just give him the $6 million.
No, they wanted more. It was greedy. They can afford to give him the $6 million, but they can make more money on that.
With Madoff.
I've found
They
some
couldn't
of
do
that.
both?
They wanted more. What do you mean they couldn't do both? Yes, they can do both, but they could make more money with Bonilla's money
And Madoff.
than they could just giving that money.
What
to
could go wrong?
Bonilla. Right, nothing would ever go wrong there. You just give it all. Everyone knows Bernie Madoff totally solid. Don't have to worry about anything. Top 5 deferred contracts in the history of sports. Any OLIs, or are we going straight to number 5?
Well, I just have baseball contracts here, but they're all pretty brutal. So number 5, Max Scherzer. He signed a 7-year, $210 million deal with the Nationals in 2015, but $105 million was deferred. So he makes $15 million a year from the Nats through 2028. Of course, he plays for the Blue Jays. Yeah. Number 4.
Wasn't he getting checks from like 3 teams at one point in time?
Brett Saberhagen.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Did you know that Scherzer was a Blue Jay? Did you know Verlander was a Giant?
Brett Saberhagen retired in 2001, but he receives $250,000 a year from the Mets. It started in 2004. It'll end in 2029.
Oh, wow. So this was another one that the Wilpons did. Same thing, but Bonilla's the only one who gets stuck with it, and Saberhagen skates?
I guess the difference of $1 million versus $250,000, and Bonilla, it's July 1st. But number 3, Manny Ramirez. In 2001, he signed an 8-year, $160 million deal with the Red Sox. They deferred $32 million over 16 years. So he's received $2 million every year in that span, starting in 2011, ending in 2026.
I heard Bobby Bonilla say that he gets more texts on Bobby Bonilla Day than his birthday.
Yeah.
Purely for the money, number 2, Shohei Ohtani. So it's a 10-year, $700 million deal, right? But over 9 years, starting in 2034, I believe, he'll make $68 million per year over 9 years.
I know who my number 1 is. I don't know if he's still being paid or not. Go ahead. Let's see if I can get this right. I don't want to ruin it by guessing it, but I think that what Jeremy might say here will be shockingly quiet, that most people don't know what he's about to say here.
Do you want to write it down on a piece of paper before I do this so that we can see if it's the same name? Because
Jeremy
this is
doesn't
one of my
trust Dan.
favorites.
Doesn't trust Dan, to be honest.
No, I just love this as a payoff. Aren't we always looking for payoff?
I think it has a little bit to do with honesty.
Number 1, Chris Davis.
I got it wrong.
Who'd you say?
Ken Griffey.
Chris Davis, former Orioles slugger, signed a 7-year, $161 million deal with the club in 2016, including $42 million in deferred money. From 2023 to 2037, they will be paying Chris Davis.
Would you have been honest if you didn't write it down?
I would have been, yeah. Because Ken Griffey, I think, is more shocking than Chris Davis, but they might have been done paying him last year. Did they pay him his last installment?
Yeah, last year Ken Griffey Jr. received his final installment of 16-year deferred $57.5 million. So last year, his final $3.593750 million payment.
That's got to feel good for all of them, though, right? When that arrives, that one payment arrives 19 years later.
You think like 2 weeks before they're like, "Oh, let's go out to Shoney's." Like, nah, babe, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks we can go out to Shoney's with the whole family. Not
I just
this
imagine
week.
them writing a check where it's like, don't cash it for another week.
Yeah, hold on.
Just give me a sec.
How old is Bobby Bonilla?
He's 62 years old, and he's still getting paid $1 million a year by the Mets.
Huge home run, Game 7, Marlins. Huge.
The Manny Ramirez story reminds me, I've told it before, but I will tell it again because it is just so great. I used to live in Pembroke Pines in a cul-de-sac in Pembroke Pines called Silver Lakes. It wasn't a high-end neighborhood. It was my first home. I would say it would classify as a middle-class neighborhood.
It's a nice neighborhood.
No, nice, but I'm just
nice
not,
middle class, up to upper middle class neighborhood.
Okay.
But
This
you're
was a
better,
long time
you're
ago,
better
though.
than that now.
That's not what I meant by that. I'm framing this story for Manny Ramirez, but yes, I am better than
Somewhere
that.
between upper middle class and lower upper class.
Yeah.
I would
You would
say,
never be caught there today.
I wouldn't say that. I would never be caught there today. Maybe fleeing the authorities. I would get caught.
The neighborhood take a turn, or was it really like hard times over there?
Is that why you left?
Yeah, neighborhood of crime.
Was it fight or flight?
Mm-hmm. He flight.
It is a very protected neighborhood. It is a cul-de-sac, and it is, though, not a neighborhood that you would be likely to find a famous person, and certainly not one with the wealth of Manny Ramirez.
Dan still has the house. It's now just his closet.
After Manny Ramirez signed his $160 million deal with the Red Sox, I know that's quaint now, right? I know that gets you a Miles Turner now. But back then, it seemed like a ton of money, $160 million.
Reckless.
He's walking through what is largely a middle-class neighborhood, and he points at a house, and he's like, can I afford that? And it's one of these neighborhoods where the developer has only made 3 or 4 types of houses. There are no other types of houses. And in fact, I think it was just 3 types of houses in the neighborhood. And he points to one of them. He's like, I want to buy that. Can I afford that? And his agent, Gene Motto, says, Manny, you can afford this whole bleeping neighborhood, the whole thing. You can buy the whole thing for your family, and it wouldn't be any problem. But he had no concept of the amount of money that we were talking about. And I just wondered, like they were always finding uncashed
Right. Wasn't there an
checks.
accounting issue one year with him and the team?
You, please look up for me a couple of stories here. I'm pretty sure Ricky Henderson, his first $1 million check, I believe the A's were like, why hasn't Ricky cashed that? It's because he just put it on his wall. I'm pretty sure Manny Ramirez always had a bunch of uncashed checks. And then there was, I think it was it Ariel Prieto who came from Cuba, gets $1 million signing bonus, and walks around with it in the jeans of his pants for a week because he doesn't understand what banks are. Like he's from Cuba, and so he's got $1 million signing bonus check in his jeans that they're telling him is worth an amount of money, but he just doesn't he doesn't know what banks are, what a check is, what any of it means, so he's just walking around with the $1 million check.
How did Manny not have direct deposit? Like, he has an agent, he has a team around him, and he was getting paper checks. Like, he needs to go to a teller every 2 weeks?
I think that it might have been before. Is it possible that this is before direct deposit, that people would just be paid with checks? I don't know when we invented direct deposit, but for some reason, Manny Ramirez was pulled over. I think I have this story right. I think Manny Ramirez was pulled over, then made a U-turn and was pulled over again, and then they found the checks in his car, and they found. I'm pretty sure I have that right.
I can confirm the Ricky story. In 1982, Oakland A's couldn't solve an annoying accounting error. The answer was framed on Ricky Henderson's bedroom wall.
Also, Ariel Pareto did have the $1.2 million signing bonus check in his pocket for a week. Yeah.
Let's find that Manny Ramirez story and see if I go 3 for 3 here, because we've got an assortment of checks for tens of thousands of dollars, uncashed checks found in Manny Ramirez's car. Is Manny still playing somewhere? Is Manny over 50 playing like in Taiwan or something? Still trying to play baseball somewhere?
I don't think so. I think we saw him with his son recently. Like, his son was at a showcase or something, but I think his son was praising his swing. So I think he may be done for the moment. He may be done. But, there's always another league that comes out. Do you guys ever have jobs where, like, when you got your physical check, it was a race to the bank to make sure you got paid because you weren't sure the funds were going to be there for everyone?
My old job, check bounced one time.
Are you feeling that way with God Bless Football?
No, there's no checks. Right now, this is strictly community service, and it's for my resume.
I'm seeing a month ago, Manny Ramirez says he wants to return to MLB, but as a hitting coach. So I don't think he's playing.
He's still in the cages, Dan. I just saw a video. Still in the cages. Still just working on the craft.
Put it on the
just in
poll.
case.
Do you assume that Manny Ramirez will still be in the batting cage past 100 years old?
El Duque is still at Tamiami Park. Like, you think I'm joking?
I don't think you're joking.
My sister played a softball game against Livon Hernandez a couple months ago. And I was like, how is that possible? She works at a school.
Was he the pitcher?
Okay, so it was a school, and it was supposed to be, I guess, like a bunch of schools. It was like a holiday of some sort that all the schools were off. So the schools have like these softball teams that are playing against each other that are supposed to be comprised of faculty of the school. and she sends me a picture, and she's like, "You'll never guess who I'm playing against." And she sends me a picture, and I'm not here to shame anyone. Unrecognizable. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" She's like, "That's Levon Hernandez." I'm like, "How is Levon Hernandez? Like, Levon Hernandez is he a science teacher? Why is Levon Hernandez playing in a school versus school softball game at Tamiami Park? Other than the fact that I guess we just got to keep our juices going and we need the competition. First baseman he was playing.
That makes
at.
sense.
Big target.
I've seen him at the highlight fronton. He still looks like Levon Hernandez.
Turns
What are
out,
you doing to him?
I guess he's doing some coaching at a school, so he was eligible for this roster. But they brought in a ringer. Levon Hernandez is now playing in faculty versus faculty.
I don't know why it is you
softball
felt the
games.
need to put quote marks around that.
Well, because someone knows
coaching.
Levon Hernandez. Like, we have a big softball tournament. You want to come out there and then say, when people ask you what's going on, he's a baseball coach, assistant baseball coach.
I will
whatever.
tell you, I have rarely been more scared doing anything in sports than what I'm about to describe for you. Showing up at Tamiami Park for a softball game, playing third base, and looking in the opposing dugout, and there are Jose and Ozzie Canseco. Screaming line drives toward third base are not anything I want a part of if they don't hit the 500-foot home run that they are confident that they're going to hit every time, because those two guys were only there to hit the ball as far as a human being can hit it. Like, Jose Canseco was only going out there. The only reason, it wasn't to win, it wasn't to beat anybody up. It is just simply to swing and have everyone go, I can't believe how far that softball went. But when it didn't go far, it went screaming at the third baseman's forehead. And I was too close. And I was scared of everything that was happening there, because the way that the ball came off those bats, it wasn't Levon Hernandez. And Levon could hit too.
That's why they call it the hot corner. Update on the Manny Ramirez story that you were talking about. Yes, he was pulled over in Cleveland in 1997. He was receiving 3 tickets, which were for illegally tinted windows, the stereo blasting too loud, and there was something else that it's not saying right here. But when the cop pulled him over, he knew who Manny was. He said, "Manny, I'm going to give you a ticket." And his response was, "I don't need any tickets. I can give you tickets." And sped away, pulled around with an illegal U-turn, and then received another ticket.
And how many checks were found?
There's no details,
Okay.
and I've just read 3 different articles, and none of them have details of the checks.
Okay.
But I'm like a dog with a bone on this. I'll find
I played
it.
second base charity softball game. I threw out Derek Lee first base.
Really?
I picked that grounder up, threw him out.
Wow.
That's right.
When Ozzie and Jose are there, you got to play
Clean.
back on the infield, right? If you're playing, Ozzie and Jose are not going to bunt. You got to play back.
Agreed. What I'm telling you is you can't play back far enough. I was in left field, and I was still scared. Like, I did not have the arm strength to throw the ball from where I was to the first baseman.
He's a cutoff guy.
If they hit any kind of ball on the ground, they were going to have an infield single. I was just trying to make sure there wasn't a dent in my forehead.
Keep it in front of you.
If Pat Riley had punched me with a diamond in the forehead.
Zaz, who's the first baseman? The celebrity first baseman when you threw out Derek Lee?
I don't remember. But I was double play tandem. I was second base, shortstop, Michael.
Oh, wow.
What were you doing in this game?
Playing baseball.
No, I know, but it was a celebrity game.
Yeah.
Like Make-A-Wish?
You know who I am?
I'm just asking. I don't know.
He's a big star.
What year was this?
Zaz?
Maybe like 10 years ago.
Zaz is a big rising star at ESPN Radio. 305-486-GOTS is the number. I've got some more God Bless Football questions, but we've got a Boost Mobile Boldest Take hotline. It's 305-486-GOTS. It has been up and down. It's been better, but it's been up and down. How do you feel about this batch, Chris Cody?
I feel good about this batch. It's the Boost Mobile Boldest Take, and it's presented by, of course, Boost Mobile, the newest 5G network in the country.
Hey guys, walking the dog. Isn't it weird how if you're up for something or down for something, it means the same thing?
My boldest take is no one realizes how bad old school wrestlers were. Hulk Hogan, terrible. Finishers, a leg drop? Kidding me? Everyone does a goddamn leg drop. I hang up and listen.
This is Dan on a walkie-talkie. I don't like the expression, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Why? Who's getting cake and not eating it? Over and out.
Hey gang, Ryan up in Washington State. One of life's underrated joys is opening a can of Pringles to find them completely
unbroken, and perfectly stacked. Amazing.
Yeah, this is Mark on a mobile. My bold take is that all things considered, especially versatility, lemon is the most underrated fruit. I'll stay on.
Don't try to take Race LaFriend to the hole, 'cause you will not score. You know who that is. That is Race LaFriend. Who the F are you?
Yeah, this is Josh from a mobile in my car. My bold take is that Mission Impossible should be called Mission Kind of Impossible, because all the previous missions have been impossible, yet they still solved them, so it wasn't really that impossible. I think maybe Mission Kind of Impossible. I'll hang up and listen.
Hey there, this is Todd. I just wanted to say I miss Stugotz. I'm not afraid to...
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Should it actually be named Mission Kind of Impossible? Also put on the poll, is lemon the most underrated fruit?
Is that guy okay at the end?
And also put on the poll, is life's greatest pleasure opening a can of Pringles and having them all be unbroken? At Le Batard Show. The telephone number again is 305-486-GOTS 4689. We've mentioned Stugotz. We've mentioned God Bless Football. Billy, can you give me anything in the way of an update? Because I asked Stugotz this yesterday. I'm like, are you guys going to Lake Tahoe or not? And I got a plume of blue smoke he spit in my face, like from heaters and disease, and no truth. And so I don't know whether you guys are going to Tahoe. I know that God Bless Football is going to be more often during football season. I know God Bless Football has new studios and is going to try and grow as a business. I don't know what's going on with Tahoe. Do you know what's going on with Tahoe?
It's definitely a maybe on the Tahoe situation. Stugotz he's dead set on going. It's just a logistical thing, and as you know, Dan, it's hard starting a business, and now we're paying for things out on our own. So if I want to go to Tahoe, I'm going to pay out of pocket to go to Lake Tahoe. So I'm have to talk to the missus and say, is this financially something we're going to do? And we're out there. We have deals coming in soon. So at some point, we're not going to have to pay out of pocket for these things. But at the moment, until those things are signed and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, these things are coming out of pocket.
In the interim, you guys should support God Bless Football and Stupodity and StuTube. He is working very hard on those things, and that is the reason that he is around less, because by the time of football season, he's going to want to be making God Bless Football a lot more often for you. But right now, you can get it. It's pretty easy to find all over the internet, and he is doing, I don't know what the schedule is, though, Billy, because he hasn't informed me. It's nebulous, and I've asked him several times, like, I want to promote the things that you're doing. Tell me what I need to know. And again, it's just it's a lot of smoke.
No, I mean, it's hard. I mean, we're balancing two responsibilities at the same time. The schedules here are not super consistent, so sometimes we have recording days that are one day, and then other times we're not scheduled the same day. So we're trying to make it work in the interim, but we're working on it. It's getting out there.
God Bless Football. Please support the things that Stugotz and Billy are doing. I want to put a few things in front of Zaslow, who is a judge, a journalist, a lawyer, a race war expert, and a doctor. Right now, I'd like to speak to the judge, if that's okay.
Yep.
You have something that you have to go to? You need a costume? Okay, you have...
All rise. The Honorable Jonathan Zaslow now presiding with prejudice.
All right, so we have imaging here on a prejudiced judge, John Zaslow. Does anyone call you John? Or
It's weird that you decided to call me John.
I see there he's got to switch headphones.
Yeah,
here.
switch
This is
headphones
big.
because he's got Judge. He's got a thing he's got to put on his head. Okay, because he is Judge Dredd. What year was that movie?
All
Judge?
rise. The Honorable Jonathan Zaslow now presiding with prejudice.
What movie? What year is Judge Dredd a Sylvester Stallone movie?
1995, the year I was born.
Okay, very good.
Was he ever a Johnny? Were you ever a Johnny as a kid?
Nope.
Really? Never?
Nope. Nice try.
Why not? Wait, nice try. It's not a trick. It's just a question.
Nice try.
Is Mike Ryan allowed to root for Florida Panther Brad Marchand next year?
Okay. So Brad Marchand signed a 6-year deal. Great day for the Panthers. Great day for the Panther fan. But Mike Ryan has been saying that Marchand is dead to him. He doesn't even want him on the team. And now apparently Mike Ryan said he's okay with it. Is that what happened?
It seems like he's okay with it. You're not really answering the question. You're asking.
I'm trying to gather
more,
evidence here.
More information. Okay, so he's back on. He's on the bandwagon. He's back on the bandwagon, and he wants back on to enjoy Brad Marchand's career.
All right. So again, what's the charge?
Is Mike Ryan allowed to root for Brad Marchand next year?
Mike Ryan is allowed to root for Brad Marchand. There's no timetable on how long it takes for you to come around on a player. It didn't take him that long. I'm willing to look past it. He is allowed to root for Brad Marchand now. He is. I rule always with prejudice.
Is Greg Cody allowed to roll up or leave a funeral playing Beach Boys music too loudly in his car?
Greg Cody claims that this was a bonding point between him and the deceased. It's very rare that someone would pull up to a funeral with not only music blasting from the car, but Beach Boys Surfing USA blasting from the car. Can you tell me again what the charge is?
The charge is Greg Cody allowed to leave or go to a funeral playing Beach Boys too loud in his car?
Okay, I know what the charge is, and he is guilty. He is not allowed to do that. It's disrespectful to the deceased to pull up with music blasting, and then you claim that this was a bonding point. Very disrespectful with prejudice.
It'd be like if I was jamming to Pearl Jam if you passed. That's not allowed? It's like, why can't I would want to celebrate you.
It depends. Does everybody know that this was a place
What do you
that
mean
we bonded?
It depends. Because
Of course it depends. Because did anybody know that Greg Cody and the deceased, that this was a bonding point? Sounds like it's Greg's word against everybody.
They didn't know, and then he informed them.
No, you need proof. He's guilty.
Sometimes the way Zaslow enunciates words, it like rattles around inside my skull a little bit. Does that happen to you guys?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Does the way Zaslow pronounces words rattle around in your skull a little bit?
Not guilty.
The timing on this and the way that this is played out is simply incredible, because there is a possibility that there's someone who is at home watching with two televisions who on one television is watching Judge Zaslow and him telling us whether or not Greg Cody can play Beach Boys and Mike can be a Panthers fan. And on the other one, the jury verdict is in on the Diddy trial, which is a real trial.
I'm
and
the
that
judge
is going
there
to be,
also.
that will be read soon. So while one of the bigger trials in pop culture in our time is being read, we are now levying verdicts on whether or not Greg Cody can play Beach Boys while you're wearing a helmet.
I thought you were going to say, as one of the bigger verdicts is being rendered, we also wait for the Diddy verdict. I thought is what you were going to do there, because this is the most important verdict. And I've got one more question for Zaz before I go to
I'll allow it.
To Jessica. Thank you.
Judge Johnny.
A lot of people are still coming after me because I made the mistake immediately after the Stanley Cup final of confusing Sam Reinhart and Sam Bennett. My excuse is that there are not that many great Sams in sports. At Le Batard Show, put it up on the poll. Are there any great Sams? Can you be great at sports if your name is Sam? And who is the most famous of the Sams in
Sammy
sports?
Sosa would like a word.
Okay, that's tainted.
What?
Whoa.
What do you do?
Sammy Sosa is a bit tainted, and it's Sammy. Sammy is different. Like Fred and Freddie are different in terms of athletic greatness. Ed and Eddie are different. The one syllable hurts people. If I throw a Y on it, Bill will tell you. Bill Gill will tell you. You need that Y on the end. Is it a forgivable mistake that I confuse the two Sams is the question for Judge Zaslow.
Sam Bennett won the Conn Smythe, a very prestigious award. Sam Reinhart scored 4 goals in the Stanley Cup clinching game. They both have the same first name.
Yeah, we covered all that.
Quiet in the court.
your gavel.
Quiet in the court.
It was quiet.
Quiet in the court. I will throw you right out. Like I was saying, confusing Sam Bennett for Sam Reinhart is a disgrace.
Oh, no.
And I rule with the most prejudice possible. It's unforgivable, Dan Le Batard.
Oh, no.
Unforgivable.
Sam Bradford, Sam Cassell, and Jessica's boy, Sam Hartman.
Sam Presti?
Mm-hmm.
Is the best of the Sams Sam Bradford?
Court adjourned.
Sure seems like it.
Sam Madison.
I can't believe I didn't get to. Not a lot of Hall of Famers there. Sam Madison's a good one, but I mean, there are not a lot of.
Sam Snead?
Sam Ewis.
My God.
Sam Morrell.
Sam Malone.
Sam Malone is also a good one. We have not gotten to Red Panda getting hurt last night. Red Panda, for those of you who are not familiar, is a basketball icon. This is as famous of entertainment as you will find anywhere in the sports experience, correct? If I ask you the most famous of the sports experience entertainers, that never happens to Red Panda. How hurt was she?
Well, apparently, according to Ben Pickman from The Athletic, former coworker of mine, actually, from Sports Illustrated, she was wheeled off in a wheelchair and was seen leaving in an ambulance, and it appeared that she may have hurt her wrist, which, I mean, you can see there she's waving and, is walking off under her own accord, but really sad, kind of put a damper on the whole evening. Obviously, everyone was talking about this as being the big injury from the Fever Lynx game in the Commissioner's Cup, Red Panda.
Wheelchair for a wrist?
It was.
See, the joke is that Caitlin Clark was also out, but you guys don't really watch the WNBA, so
I was wondering
someone at home got it.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on Mike Ryan yesterday. Had a lot of thoughts about whether or not he's allowed to hate.
I agree. Mike Ryan was absolutely correct. All these soft women say you can't make fun of female athletes anymore. And he's absolutely right to hate on an athlete that already gets a disproportionate amount of hate without even watching her games. He's absolutely right.
He said irrational. Do people not get that? Irrationally. It means no ration.
Tony, I love your work. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant Spain. Somebody finally said it.
I mean, I do enjoy the idea of I'm allowed to hate, right? As long as it's irrational. I'm saying it's irrational, so allow me to hate.
The qualifier's there. Irrationally.
Right. So you just allow me to hate.
I'll just say this. It was a bad look for Mike yesterday, and I am just referring to the mustache.
Yeah.
Okay? We don't even have to go further than that.
We really don't. It is a terrible mustache. Can you guys get me some of the information on Bezos's wedding that people are protesting in Venice? Because I know that the wealth disparity right now throughout the globe is something that a lot of people are now paying attention to. And Bezos is doing something so grotesquely opulent around his wedding that you have people in a city that is used to tourists who are deeply offended by him bringing all of his American money to Venice and essentially just buying the city for his wedding.
They used it as a means to be concerned with the general over-tourism in Venice, and this was a perfect example. So this was in San Giorgio Maggiore in Venice, but based on projections by Forbes,
Famous San.
it cost $25 million for the wedding. Guests paid approximately $900,000 each for their 3-night stays at luxury hotels based on the projections, those including Oprah Winfrey, Gayle King, Orlando Bloom, basically every Kardashian, Karlie Kloss, Leonardo DiCaprio, Usher, and Tom Brady. They rented 30 private water taxis to escort guests around the city, estimated to cost about $270,000 in water travel for their guests alone. The wedding was catered by three Michelin star chef Fabrizio Meino.
It's not important.
Based
you don't
on
need to do all three
restaurants' costs for number of guests, over $1 million in food and beverage. Security costs a few $1 million for the high-profile guests. Andrea Bocelli's son, Matteo Bocelli, sang at the ceremony. He sang "Can't Help Falling in Love." Ellie Goulding was hired to reportedly perform at the reception. Sanchez's corseted mermaid-style wedding dress was custom designed by Dolce & Gabbana and featured hand-applied Italian lace. Before Friday's celebration, Sanchez herself made her way to whatever it was, dressed in a 60s-inspired tailored white skirt designed by Dior. for the wedding dinner.
Stop talking.
Why?
That was a lot of info.
I still wanted more.
Could have used less. 3 days, $900,000 for the hotels.
If
And
you cover that if you're Bezos, right?
Yes. No one. Oprah did not pay to go to Jeff
That's what
Bezos'
he
wedding
said
$1
that they
million.
did.
Those estimates, by the way, like I'm not questioning Jeremy at all, but like when everything is reported estimates, it's like that thing when the Super Bowl's economic impact is $30 billion to a city, and it's like, yeah, we still can't pay for schools. So where'd all that money go?
They did the
Like, I
math
don't
in
think
the
any
article.
of that is
I
real.
just, figured I
Yeah,
was going to get
projected.
too many details.
You just say anything is projected this, projected that, and then it buys you time. Yeah, I project that Little Havana is going to be revitalized by Marlins Park. Okay. I think there's a urologist office in the parking garage, and that's it.
He's the richest guy on the planet, and you want him to have a cheap wedding?
Tony,
boy. No.
Talk about missing the point.
No, but I'm asking, like, you want him to have a cheap wedding, or do you want him to have
would have
the
been
means of what it is?
It would have been hilarious if it was like a
it's too much.
$60,000 wedding.
Yeah, I can't spend that. Sorry. Rent out the ballroom.
We are
Little Havana.
so doomed, Dan. I have nothing to say on that.
You have Jeff Bezos eloping and getting married by an Elvis impersonator at a chapel in Vegas on a Wednesday night at midnight?
It would be hilarious.
He went $25 million. That was lower than I thought it would be, given what it is that I was reading about the details on it.
Dan,
but
would you go if you were invited? Would you?
No.
Would you?
That's
no?
not. Come on.
Your
you would not
excuse-
go
what
to
would you
that.
say?
A who's who of celebrities.
Send a
You
gift?
wouldn't go? Why not?
If I don't know Jeff Bezos,
So
why
what?
would I want to be
Neither
there?
does Sydney Sweeney. Do you think any of
Exactly.
these celebrities know Bezos?
And her and
this
Tom
is like,
Brady are canoodling.
We're so rich. We can invite whoever we want. Who are the coolest celebrities that make us look cool by them hanging out at our wedding weekend?
I'm picturing like just a friend of Jeff's back in the day that like didn't get invited, and he's just like, "What the?
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom?
You'd go
Well,
in a
that's
New
the
York
other
minute.
interesting thing, Chris Cody, is that Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry announced like a week ago that they were splitting up, and Katy Perry apparently was not allowed to go to the wedding, and Orlando Bloom got to go to the wedding. So I don't know how that conversation went down.
He
Because
won
Katy
the friend
Perry,
face-off.
Yeah, we know where
Katy
Jeff
Perry
stands.
flew on his dick rocket like a month ago with Gayle King. So somehow Orlando Bloom still won the Bezos wedding invite in the split up.
Docket.
Billy, it was moving very quickly there, so I don't know who it is that you accused of canoodling. Was it Tom Brady with somebody?
And Sydney Sweeney, yeah, those were the reports that they were spending a lot of time talking to each other at the nuptials. You haven't seen those reports?
I have not.
I saw a
you would have
different
seen it in
report,
person had
really.
you gone. But you took a moral stand against Jeff Bezos for some reason.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio, climate activist.
He wore a hat, right? That's crazy.
That's just his move whenever there's paparazzi around. I saw photos of him in the wedding without the hat, but just like, dude, we know it's you, Leo.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, he's always just like, no one knows it's me.
Did you guys see, like, I don't know if you guys, like, felt as bad as I did for Leo recently, but it's been rough times for Leo. Like, he recently got in a relationship with a 27-year-old.
I saw
He
that,
broke
Billy.
his 25-year-old rule.
Everyone's saying that it's a recession indicator. Kind
Yeah.
of scary.
I mean, it's hard times for poor Leo, you know?
Where are you guys on the Bezos wedding other than asking me whether or not I would go? All of you would go? All of you if you had
Wait,
to pay,
well,
pay
no.
your own
You
way?
said-
Because keep in mind, you just said $900,000 for 3 days. You had these celebrities are paying for things. You didn't make it free for
They
me.
didn't pay for that, Dan. Oprah didn't pay
Well,
$1 million
the way
to go see
Jeremy
Jeff
read
Rich
it,
people don't pay for anything.
Yeah.
Dan. They don't pay for
Okay,
anything.
but that's not what
the
Jeremy
secret.
said. It's fine that you guys can want your own set of facts, but it's not what Jeremy said. Jeremy
said that the estimated cost of it being an attendee is
Would
around $1
be
million.
estimated.
That doesn't mean that they covered their own costs. I would also like to add that you said you wouldn't go because you're not his friend, but are you open to being his friend and perhaps going to the next wedding?
I would not pay. Again, you guys aren't. I
No,
heard
the
what.
question is, would you go, not would you pay?
It's all expenses
would
paid,
you
Dan.
go?
All expenses paid. Would you go?
Maybe for the story.
Okay.
It is not clear whether the couple was paying for the guest rooms, but two wedding planners say it's standard for ultra luxe events like this. So, seems like they paid for the weddings.
I love
He
how
can
we're
pay
all.
for
I
it.
love how we're all acting like Oprah couldn't, foot that bill. Like, I think it'd be fine.
I'm not acting like Oprah can't foot that bill. I'm saying $900,000 for 3 days seems like a big bill to land on somebody when you're inviting them to your wedding.
Across the globe, too.
But that's also the classic, would you take $250,000 or dinner with Jay-Z? Yeah. Imagine all the contacts you could make at the Bezos-Sanchez nuptials.
True.
You think that you're sidling up to DiCaprio in that cap and walking away friends with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody there thinks that everybody there is somebody. They may not know who you are, but if they don't know who you are, you actually might be the most popular person there because they're like, well, who's that guy?
Do you have?
Like, I know that's Gigi Hadid. I know who that is.
Do you
who's
have
that guy?
The friend of his that did get invited? Do you have that guy like going around like pitching ideas? Like, I got a movie idea for Leo. I got this idea.
Yeah, like cousin Jim Bezos.
It's just Stugotz.
Hey, right, a bunch of Stugotz.
It's just Stugotz walking up to people.
Hey, Leo, you want to come on my podcast?
That's Tahoe.
That's right. We don't know if we're going to Tahoe yet, but we will let you know when it is that Stugotz knows. Or
We keep saying we. It's more like they are going to Tahoe.
I mean, it's always been they go to Tahoe.
Yeah. I went actually.
I got a text about Tahoe last night. That's all I'm going to say.
Congratulations. We still don't know. Billy, you've got more information on Tahoe than Billy has.
It seems so, yeah.
I wanted to ask Jeremy if there were any other Bezos facts that there are worth knowing, or if we've scarred.
He's gotten all of them wrong so far. So.
Nope.
Okay, good work by you. What did you think about Travis Kelce's comments, Jessica, on the hardest part about hosting Saturday Night Live, which he did very well, right? He had no issues hosting, and no one had any complaints about what a natural he was. But he said the hardest part of hosting SNL was the pre-show table read because, quote, I can't really read that well.
Well, it made me think of this show specifically because A, we know you love SNL, Dan, and B, we have producers who, when we have to do reads, we constantly screw up because of the pressure of reading. Sometimes reading in front of a group can be hard. So I found this very relatable, and it honestly made me think of Chris Cody. So I wanted to talk about it.
It also made me think of me.
Jeremy, how did you hold up with how it is that you were reading those Bezos facts? Because I know you, like Whittingham, are very particular about every single stumble. And then you had one stumble, and then more of them arrived after that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Jess makes a good point, which is it's tough to read in front of a group, except I would bet it's easier to do so in front of the SNL people because they probably don't seize on every single time that you misspeak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more difficult to do it here, Chris. So good for you.
We should have Travis Kelce come to the studio and try to read in the shipping container and ask him which one was harder. That would be
I think it's a great idea.
Free idea.
Stugotz can get him, right?
Not free. I'll invoice you for that.
Things are tense today, huh?
Billy mentioned earlier this week that it does not feel like 4th of July week. I don't know what 4th of July week is supposed to feel like, but he was complaining because he didn't want his national holiday on a Friday. That doesn't happen very much in general, does it? Like,
I just want the extra days off. If I get on a Thursday, I can get that Friday off. And if the Friday feels like a cheat code. And if I get the Wednesday and I really want to be a bad boy, I can try to stretch that into a Thursday, Friday, maybe Tuesday half-day situation. But just the Friday, like a 3-day weekend.
So you want the week off for 4th of July is really what you're saying?
No,
our country or not?
No, I'll be there Monday. All right. I'll show up Monday and half of Tuesday in an ideal world. But now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Jessica
Thursday.
has a top 5 list here of the top 5 worst days for 4th of July to fall on. Do you have
There's only 7 options.
An OLI? Any OLI
I have
here?
2 OLIs.
Two
actually.
OLI. All right.
I love this.
Go ahead. Number
Okay,
7.
OLI Friday.
That's the one it's falling on this week. OLI. Wow. That's OLI. So that makes it the best day to fall on okay.
It's the 7th worst, I would say.
Okay.
And the 6th worst, I would say, is Monday.
So the OLIs are in numerical order for you. Typically, my OLIs are just OLIs. We couldn't put a number in and pin them down, you know?
Yes, you're
To
doing
me,
a top
I think
7.
there was No, it's a top 5.
That's a top 7.
No,
That's a top 5.
No, yeah.
I'm
We
a judge.
clarified it.
Number 5.
Okay, number 5, Thursday.
Number 4.
5th worst day for the 4th of July to fall on. Number 4, Saturday. 4th worst, because if it falls on a Saturday, do you even get it? I guess you get a day off Friday at some jobs. That's where you get the federal holiday falls on the Friday. I don't know how that works, but
do you?
Or a Monday.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies will give like the one bookend the week off, but the actual day being on Saturday doesn't do anything for me. Well, it does the 4th worst for me.
Is 4th of July something that it must have landed on a Saturday or Sunday? And
Yes.
I don't remember it giving another day off during the week to compensate for the fact that the national holiday
This
was
isn't
on
Christmas.
a weekend.
Well, you tell us,
Someone
Dan.
look it up.
We have 4th of July on Saturday next year. Are you going to give us the day off
No,
on Friday?
I'm telling you, we've never had the day before off. Like not with
You
this
say
holiday.
this as though we don't just take holidays off willy-nilly.
Or just days off willy-nilly because there's nobody keeping track of what days you take
We
off.
got unlimited days off.
Yeah, I mean, unlimited means unlimited. If you don't
Thank
want
you,
us to
Samson.
take it, give us a number. Yeah, geez.
What number are we on? 3?
3. Tuesday.
Tuesday is just that's terrible. That would never be good.
It's the third worst because what do you go to work
the third
Monday
best,
and then you get Tuesday off? No, it's a list of the 5 worst days.
I love
Oh,
this
this is
list.
the worst. My bad. I was not following this.
Really? Number 2.
Number 2. Sunday. No one wants a Sunday 4th of July, Dan.
But you make it that Monday.
The best
well,
of the
maybe.
4th of July.
We haven't determined.
Days to fall on is
No. The worst, Dan.
The
The,
be-
worst day
See?
for the 4th of
You're with
July.
me.
You need to apologize to Chris right now.
Number 1.
I'm waiting for a sorry.
Number 1. Go to
Wednesday.
break.
lot better.
You really would.
But it's only gotten worse.
Well, the solution to everything is hire more people, and then all that happens is more problems.
Well,
is what I've
again,
noticed.
Again, the deterioration of everybody's health.
Yes, that's part of
hanging
what's
over
happening.
this show.
So, do you have a top 5 nostalgic, syrupy memories instead of hauntings? What? Let's do some top 5 lists to celebrate our time here, 8 to 10 years, so Stugotz can be nostalgic. So that Roy can
It's been
be
8 to 10 years for everybody else. It's been 20 to 30 for Stu.
Yeah, it has. It
All
really
in
has.
space, by the way.
Yep.
Billy can get emotional here. Teach the
I
young
don't want to
ones.
leave.
What?
I revealed
so
that
not
today
true.
in the
Liar.
garage.
Billy
Stugotz
said
was-
that to me. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
having a
and
heater in the garage.
He was talking to Cougs upstairs in the garage. I was walking down.
Who's Cougs?
Cougs?
Oh, you know.
Well, do you not want
Come on,
to? Do you
Dan.
not want to? I am more worried about them finding a body underneath your desk than I am in Mel Reese.
I have a plastic container. I have to take all this stuff today, I was told. So
That's why you don't want to leave, because you got to clean up.
I like it here. I mean, the downtown floods. I don't know if we're supposed to say we're going to downtown, but it floods there. And, anytime it rains, I'm going to have to get a boat or a kayak to get from my car.
Is it Judd
floods here,
Apatow sock puppet still over there?
No, I think one of the dancers took that.
To be clear, we have a day and a time of great hope, and you're already fearing change. You're
It's
already
not fear, as I'm comfortable here. This place is fine to me.
Billy's Fear is brought to you by Miller Lite. Just 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
I'm going to see the new studio today. Maybe that'll change things.
You don't want to move? You don't want to move?
I mean, I don't think I get a vote on this. I think it's happening whether I want to or not.
Yeah, we're a little further along. But I am excited for everybody to experience the new building. I've gone over there a couple of times, and I was honestly moved to tears the first time, just because there's so much space. So much space to do
tears.
this. I was, yeah, because it feels like.
Were you wearing a hard hat?
No. We're beyond that. But not to get too into it, and I'm sure there's plenty of time for nostalgia and stuff like that. But we've been through a lot, man. It's been hard. We've been through a couple of different companies and a bunch of different incarnations of the show. I've had really good memories here, and I've had some professional lows that I would just like to remove myself from. I feel like all those emotions every time I come into this building, which is good and bad, and I'm just really excited for a new mile marker for the company. It feels like actual growth, because we're going to do this in a much nicer place, and I'm excited for that.
All that space in the new building also sponsored by Miller Lite.
Killing it.
We will get to the top 5. Good contribution so far, Greg.
Did you slur? Why did he slur this?
I mean, when he starts to drinking.
Miller Lite,
The guy's bleeding. Leave him alone. I mean,
he is bleeding. He's got another wound.
But Billy thinks he looks
great, though.
It
Yeah,
looks like he's
exactly.
had work done.
Thank you, Billy.
I don't think Billy was being sarcastic.
I wasn't. I mean, you have a nice haircut, clean shaven. Got a pep in your step today?
Pep in it.
Mm-hmm.
We have. I should probably just tell the audience because I remember promising Stugotz, and I've lied here, and I try not to lie to the audience or anybody.
Same.
That I would.
What happened?
That I would show the audience like what the last 2 years have been like while we were doing it. We've just had to conceal some of it because it's been hard and messy, and you've probably felt it in the strain of the show. The show has had to change and be different, and like we thought a lot of people were going to jump with us, and Amin came, and it was Amin. And then we looked, and it was still Amin, and it's Amin, and reinforcements are now coming, ever so slowly. Heroic Pablo
What's
Torre,
he doing?
running.
By the
I don't
way?
know.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
helping
moving
me
slowly.
on the show.
Jesus Christ!
Planting something.
Did he get the memo? The unlimited PTO that everybody takes around here?
But this, yes.
Where is he?
That was in retrospect, as a company policy, it's delightful. I like it spiritually, but it hurts. Yeah, it hurts the unlimited personal time off.
Terrible
policy. But it's a good policy. You got to admit, it's a good
the policy is we never know who's going to be here.
He's
a surprise in that sense.
I can answer the questions on where's Pablo, but there's a lot that goes into this move, and if you haven't been able to tell already, Dan will be making excuses on the front end for the dip in quality. And he's very worried about this move. And Pablo's not here in part because we're all worried about how Dan will take this move. There's a lot of stuff that we're throwing at Dan. We're changing the formatting of the show. We're changing where the show is produced from. And I think just throwing Pablo and, hey, here's another body complicates things a little bit. So we're going to ease Pablo into the rotation.
Nobody wants to hear the excuses. And I'm not. I am making excuses for whatever the content is next week when we're between studios.
Dan's excuses are brought to you by Miller Lite.
Excellent.
What is your top 5 list about? Have you assembled a top 5 list? I'd like to do this a little syrupy if we can, because it's an emotional week for me and for us, Stugotz.
It'll be an emotional week next week and the week after that too.
They're all emotional at this point. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very sensitive ecosystem, and I'm very worried about changing the ecosystem around Dan.
Well, this has been a comfortable place for us. I shouldn't say unlike, like Billy, I am risk averse and uncomfortable with some change. I get comfortable in places, but this place has become physically uncomfortable.
But Billy hasn't seen the new studios yet.
Yeah.
You have. So I was fortunate enough to stop by last week to go check them out. They're beautiful. So I felt better about us moving. You've seen that.
But I'll tell you why, though. I will tell you why, and this is way inside, but Conan O'Brien learned it. Conan O'Brien, when he changed networks and it was a big deal and he became an important person, they walk him into his new studio and it's a beautiful auditorium, beautiful, like the most expensive thing he could ever dreamed. And he walks in and he says, oh no. Not because of the pressure, because they used to do an intimate thing in an intimate place in an intimate way, in a way that connected with the audience intimately. And no, you put it in a ballroom in an auditorium as opposed to a place I was here on the weekend with my brother putting up the signage myself. Like it becomes a different thing. And so
keep in mind, this place will also be intimate. There's a difference between intimate and crammed like a sardine can.
Correct. This place has become physically uncomfortable and people are dying in the building and outside it. We have to move.
Yeah.
Billy, we have to move.
All right, so here's my top 5 for today, and it's brought to you by friends over at Miller Lite who are sponsoring this entire move. And it's the top 5 guests that we ever had in studio here at the Clevelander.
In studio guest, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is going to be nostalgic here.
Yeah, and this will also afford you guys the opportunity to chime in with some of your favorites. I imagine I've missed one along the years. So we'll begin with the outside looking in.
Were they from here for highly questionable? Or here, are we limiting it to the show, our show?
I'm limiting it to our show. I still have Ice Cube in there on my outside looking in. The problem is most of that was with highly questionable, and I don't have a lot of frame of reference for that outside of one of the kings of West Coast rap just wandering through a very tight hall and being really embarrassed about how we'd entertain said king of West Coast
I was
rap.
embarrassed by the hospital couch that had been sent for $50 by ESPN to represent our green room.
That was
Yes.
a nice couch.
It was a nice couch.
No, you've got to be shitting me.
That couch was a punishment.
You've got to be shitting me, Billy. You did not like that
It wasn't
couch.
a bad couch. It was a nice couch.
It was a really bad couch.
Billy!
Served its purpose.
Billy!
Sit on it.
Billy, it was a terrible couch. It was uncomfortable. It was the couch in a hospital room where they don't want you to spend the night in that
It
hospital
was
room.
harder than the floor.
It was from Hialeah, $50 is what they sent us for a green room.
It's a good price for that couch.
No.
Yeah.
Also, OLI, Michael Irvin.
That's OLI?
That's a good playmaker. What a great day.
That was wild.
Do you have any sound from that?
Oh my God, no! Like nothing that I would stand by airing right now. There was like the revelation that he got quote Lewinsky in his Hall of Fame jacket. It was just, man, he was on one. That
Yes,
day.
he was, yes.
And then Stugotz bailed on you guys for dinner.
I did. Yeah.
That was one of the, yes, that's what happened. So Stugotz lands Michael Irvin as a guest. He has come here having consumed whatever it is was consumed on South Beach. And then I was having dinner with Michael Irvin and his brother and paying for everybody in a dinner Stugotz was supposed to be at.
Yeah.
Stugotz was going to dinner with them. He did not. I did.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Now, Dan sounded reckless, but I will implore the audience to just check this interview out, and you can draw your own conclusions.
I just
because
said
that was
consuming
wild.
South Florida. That's all I said.
That was wild. That experience.
That's outside looking in.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah. And also, final OLI, there was a moment during the Super Bowl down here where Aaron Donald and Ric Flair were in studio together. Oh, yeah. And that was just really fun.
Mike, that's outside looking in?
Yes, yeah. Well, this will give you the opportunity to cape up for yours, but now we're in the true top 5. Number 5, Dan awkwardly hugging Josh Norman.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a lot of moments I like more than us rummaging through the hotel security cam to get, having talked about how awkward the hug was, but not having televised it in real time, having to go through security to get security footage that then revealed in an investigation that I had indeed hugged him in a way that was more awkward than even we'd explained was pretty good.
We covered the shit out of those Carolina Panther teams, and we had very good ratings in North Carolina because of it.
We were the #1 show.
Yeah, we had a really good relationship with Josh Norman, but just no real chemistry physically when it came to bro hugging.
One of the great regrets of watching sports in my lifetime is seeing Josh Norman churn through the machine and go from someone who was interesting and fun and free to the interview I did with him a year ago where he was broken by the system and trying to get on a practice squad. And it's like he would say nothing. It was, it hurt my soul seeing how the machine, I remember saying to him when we talked to him the first time, don't change, please don't change. And then the machine got him.
Yeah. Number 4, Jorge Masvidal. One of the great in-studio hits of our show's history. He was so playful. He ate so much. It was crazy to see him.
His dad ate a lot.
Yeah, but he went outside across the street and put on a martial arts display with Stugotz. It really started a wonderful on-air relationship between Masvidal and this show and Stugotz. And we got behind a fighter that reached the pinnacle. I mean, I know he won a fake belt, but the BMF
belt was here in the building.
Yeah.
We saw that too. That was exciting.
Yeah, when he came
we
back.
parlayed that into the weigh-in at Madison Square Garden, me and you.
And that
Mike,
was
right?
that was
Yes.
a really fun chapter
Yeah,
in our
it was
show's
great.
history. I look
Yeah.
back on it
But
fondly.
don't just skip past that though. Stugotz was on a stage barefoot with The Rock, introducing Masvidal at the height of UFC for the belt everyone wanted, as opposed to all the other belts in that sport.
That was at the theater at Madison Square Garden. It was great. It's one of the highlights of my career. What made it even better was there was a dead show right next door afterwards.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's how I got him to go.
What a night.
That's how I got you to go. Number 3.
The relationship, like many things during the pandemic, broken
Yes.
by the pandemic.
Number 3, Derek Dietrich.
Oh, yeah.
You've got 2 better than this.
Yeah, well, Derek,
Shirtless, too.
yeah, we didn't actually book him, right? He was just downstairs.
He was coming to the pool, yes.
Partying at the pool. So a shirtless Derek Dietrich popped into our studio and was just hanging back there. Great body. Yeah, that was a fun, organic moment. One of those only in South Beach type moments, Dan. Again, this list is brought to you by Miller Lite.
The part that you're leaving out is that I had said on a very popular local radio show in Miami that Darren Dietrich was not a major leaguer, that the Marlins were employing somebody who was not a major leaguer. And when he came by here, he was no longer a Marlin. He was a Cincinnati Red, and he had hit 17 home runs that month. 17 that month. It was like a record. He was coming in off that. I think that's why he was here.
Shirtless.
I don't think it was the pool. I don't think it was the party by the beach. I think it's because he hit 17 home runs.
So far, not much pushbacks on these, so I feel good about this top 5 list. Number 2, the late, great Bob Saget.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic appearance on our show. He was doing Stugotz reservations, but as Bob Saget, he was super playful. He told great stories on the air, and he was FaceTiming with Stugotz's family. He became a good friend of the show, and maybe he's getting bumped up a little bit because of his tragic passing. But Bob Saget, I will remember that fondly because he was so nice to everybody. It was just really cool to have Danny Tanner here in the building.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Was Bob Saget bumped up a couple of spots because of his untimely passing?
Rest in power.
Yep. Our thoughts and prayers presented by Miller Lite.
Number 1, our move is presented by Miller Lite. Greg Cody's slur is presented by Miller Lite.
What?
Oh, if you followed, and you know it.
Yeah, and you know it.
And if you followed this show over the course of 18 years, you know that Dan's favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad. And for the
you're welcome.
The majority of our
this is such a good story.
The majority of our shows
deserves to be number 1.
Majority of our shows, I still can't believe this happened. The majority of our show's history was spent making interview requests for Bryan Cranston, and it never working out because Bryan Cranston was a huge star and always super busy. And I'm not really exactly sure what happened. We had a request.
Happened. What do you mean you don't know what happened?
Yeah,
we happened.
We had a request in, and this was when Allison was booking guests, and she's on top of everything. But I guess a message back to us that we were approved for an interview never got to us in time, and the message that Dan and Stu would not be in studio never got out in time. We were completely dark on ESPN television. We were just audio only. We had fill-ins. The studio was very dark. I mean, because we had no idea where the lights were. It was George Sedano, Izzy Gutierrez, and members of the shipping container. We get a knock on the door saying, I have Bryan Cranston and Benjamin Bratt here. And my reaction was, what? Like, what? And so we, on the fly, had to fit Bryan Cranston and Benjamin Bratt into that studio with George Sedano and Izzy Gutierrez at the time that there was no one in any industry that Dan wanted to speak to more, and he missed the golden opportunity to interview the dream candidate in Bryan Cranston, and he also missed staring at Benjamin Bratt's gorgeous skin. Really good-looking guy. Billy, you took the newspaper that Bryan Cranston was reading. Imagine having to explain all of this to Bryan Cranston, by the way. We look like such an amateur operation.
Well, they stayed sitting in an SUV for like 20 minutes because we were at Fusion at the time, and we didn't have enough microphones set up, so we had to go and crawl under the desk for Fusion to take a microphone, but the cord was about 200 feet long, and it had zip ties tying it to the bottom of various portions of the desk, and then it went under the stage, so we had to cut all of that, take out a 200-foot long cord, and then kind of spool it together and plug it in. And it looked like this giant extension cord just wrapped around where Greg Cody was sitting for some reason.
But you all of a sudden got...
and the lights were off.
You got pulled into engineering and no one knew how to turn on the lights.
No idea how to turn on the lights. It was all so surreal. Just Walter White is just waiting for us to figure
look, man, if we go all the way back, Mike, if we go back to original Fusion when we did the interview with Lemmy to try to explain to people...
Lemmy!
I remember that.
To try to explain to people what has been done in this studio. Like, keep in mind, if you've been with us for 10 years, I know that some of you have been with us for 18 years, so you've seen the growth and you remember all of these moments, and we're going to start packaging some of them in our library and remembering them as we transition. We'll probably do some of that next week as we transition. Virtually everyone in here and everyone listening to this is more internet savvy than I am. So the question I'm about to ask, I ask with great vulnerability, as often I say things about the internet and you guys ravage me like piranha. I often feel like I'm swimming naked in the Amazon around piranha when we talk about the internet. I want to know what is happening on a couple of fronts. One, what is happening to information on the internet with AI that makes it so that a simple Google search that I now do is more complicated and more susceptible to misinformation than it has been in the history of Google? And furthermore, on my phone, I am getting an exasperating amount of I am not a robot exercises that I have to go to identifying buses, crosswalks and motorcycles, and it's never just one or two. I have to do it several times, and furthermore, get confused sometimes. Is that guy's head a part of the motorcycle? The rear view mirror's in the motorcycle.
When in doubt, click it.
Does that? Well, but I just want to know why this is happening to me. Why am I getting 5 and 6 of these instead of one just when I want to Google search something?
And then sometimes you click "I'm not a robot" and it just kind of accepts it.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if you said "I am a robot"?
That should be an option.
I feel like Tom Cruise and his crew from Minority Report. Like, they show up at your door when you click on I am a robot.
Well, wouldn't you be clicking I am a robot by just consistently getting wrong where the buses and the crosswalks and the motorcycles?
It sounds like you are. If you're getting
the
5
internet,
of those, I think you're getting them wrong.
It thinks you're a robot, Dan.
Fine, but like, what happens when it figures out you're a robot?
I want to know why it is that I'm not getting immediate access after the first time. Is it because I'm getting it wrong, that I'm clicking on a rear view mirror that's not a part of the motorcycle technically in what it is I'm supposed to be proving that I'm not a robot with?
To me, I'm always over guessing. So it's like if the toe is on the line, like I'm going towards saying it's a piece of a bicycle or a bus or whatever it might be, because if you're even questioning it, that normally ends up getting you through to the website.
Do we not think that the computers can kind of figure that out too? Like, is this the best thing we have to block AI and computers in like the digital age to get to that website or get whatever information that is?
I look forward to whatever the evolution of that is, where the computers figure out.
It's like, oh, it's a crosswalk here. Bing.
I still am not getting a good answer, though, for usually when you guys do I am not a robot, it's one test and then you get to where it is that you want to go.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
So you guys are telling me that I'm answering incorrectly the first time, and that's why I'm getting 4 or 5. You guys are telling me that the moment I answer correctly, I'm going to stop getting I am not a robot screen.
Sometimes you get 2. Where you're getting them right.
5 if you're getting things wrong.
if you're getting more than 2, I would think you're getting
To
something
Zaz's
wrong.
point, Zaz, I don't know if in all of the hats that you wear, if you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer in any of these things that you do? Okay.
How do you think I became a judge?
I don't know.
Gotta be a lawyer first.
Appointee. I don't know. It's possible.
Nah, dog.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking a question. I'm trying to give you here.
It's insulting for someone who went to school to be a lawyer and then you question if they're actually a lawyer. That's
I'm
all.
trying to give you game-changing, life-changing suggestions here for you, an industry that I don't think has existed. Yesterday we were talking about jobs that we didn't know exist, and I was talking about theme park journalist. I didn't realize that was a job. And I think that there's a job out there that hasn't been invented yet, and I think that you qualify for it as someone who is a lawyer, which I wasn't sure. I think that you can be the lawyer that represents robot discrimination. We're trying to keep robots out of all these things. Robots aren't getting their fair shake. Someone needs to stand up for these robots. At some point, a lawsuit will be fired on behalf of a robot that was not allowed into a thing because they could not identify all the traffic lights. And I feel like that could be your lane.
It's so stupid, I don't even know what to say.
All right.
You're missing a big opportunity here, by the way, because not only that, in the advanced age of AI and robots, guess who helps them? You, right? As they turn on humanity. No, wait. Zaz is a good one.
Book
He's
is closed on
with us.
Zaz. He's an idiot. He turned down a golden
Me
opportunity.
and you start
That's fine.
a robo
That's
firm.
fine.
Me and you.
I like that.
We don't need a law.
Firmware.
Wow.
I'm out.
Okay, good. We don't want you anyways.
$1 billion idea. You just
You're not a
missed
real
out, buddy.
lawyer
See
either.
ya. We'll
You're
be
a
at Jeff
fraud.
Bezos next wedding. You won't be.
I don't even know that robots deal with real money, and that's why I'm out.
Buddy, you heard of crypto?
Ever heard of Bitcoin?
That's not even real. That's not real.
You know how banks work? It's all digital now. Catch up,
Ones
Jack.
and zeros, buddy.
Oof, you're
Don't
going
give
the
me
way
that.
of the VHS, loser.
It's not real.
Let me get some sound here from Paul Feinbaum. He is touting, and this is a really fun thing to do at the beginning of July, because I remember many years ago, Beano Cook, he predicted, was it Ron Powlus or Brady Quinn would win 2 Heisman trophies. He predicted one of those players would win 2 Heisman trophies. They obviously did not. But here is Paul Feinbaum saying of Arch Manning, Peyton Manning, and what are you laughing about?
I love this clip, but go ahead. You need
Okay,
to play it first.
yes. This is the nephew of, right? This is the nephew of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. Here is Arch Manning, who's the quarterback at the University of Texas. This is what Paul Feinbaum has to say.
They're very capable of doing it again this year. I believe also that Arch Manning is the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow entered the scene in 2006.
We haven't seen him, though. And look, like, no disrespect, all right? Because college football experts, everybody knows, Paul Feinbaum, Heather Dinich, and me. I do college football tailgate for ESPN Radio, so everybody knows I'm college
Guy
football
turned down
expert.
being a lawyer for robots. Do you think he knows anything about anything?
They don't deal with real money. Don't even get me started. It's funny because the best we've ever seen, he appeared in like 3 games last year. I mean, UT San Antonio, Mississippi State, the worst team in the SEC. Steve Sarkisian decided Quinn Ewers is a better option for us to win football games. But Arch Manning is one of the it might be the best college quarterback we've ever seen. What is he going to do against Ohio State? August 30th. Better go out there slinging it against Ohio State. We're already talking about Arch Manning is the greatest thing ever. Tank for Arch. Can we see him play a little bit of college football first? It's crazy.
Gotta have a better slogan than that. Tank for Arch. We got to come up with something better than
March
that.
for Arch.
Something. Spitballing.
We've hardly seen him play. We don't even know if he's any good at the collegiate level.
Be starch for Arch.
I tuned into to Feinbaum yesterday because I was driving around, and I when you get a car, you usually get like a trial for like satellite radio, so you get anything that's broadcast anywhere. So I'm trying to use it. I've never used it before, but I decided, you know what, I can listen to Feinbaum, and I did it a couple weeks ago. So I was trying to listen to Feinbaum yesterday. Fill in this week. I don't think there's any show, and I don't want to be rude. It was not PB. I don't want to be
PB
rude.
the GOAT.
I don't remember who it was, but I've never felt as disappointed tuning into a show than tuning into Feinbaum to not get Feinbaum. It just wasn't the same. And the guy's like, coming up, we're going to take callers. I'm like, no, you're not.
Feinbaum once threatened to call the Attorney General on me.
Really?
On his show.
It's a flex.
He threatened me to call Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, and have me thrown in prison.
What'd you say? What was your
It's a true
take?
story.
What was the take?
Okay, so this is like 10 years ago. He didn't know who the hell I am, except he wants to throw me in prison. And
Did you tell me you were playing in an infield celebrity softball game? You threw out Derek Lee 10 years ago?
This was before my star turn throwing out. I threw his ass out. That was a hot shot. Threw his ass out. And we used to have a caller on our show. Me and Joy Taylor. We did mornings at 790 a ticket, and we had like a prank caller who used to call other national radio shows, and he would throw my name in there. Like, he would work in my name. Big hitting prospect, Zaslow. What do you think about calling him up? You know, he would get these guys all the time, and he kept getting through on Feinbaum's show. And at one point, now, we didn't condone nor condemn the caller. Okay, we had nothing to do with it. It was not part of my show. We didn't condone nor condemn. And Feinbaum got so mad after a number of times this guy got through. He was yelling at his producer on the air. He was yelling about me. I'm gonna call my friend Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Gonna have this Zaslow thrown in a gulag. That's what he said. He was going to throw me in a gulag.
Gulag is a great word. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is gulag the funniest word for prison? How do you feel about fanning for Manning, where you're both fanning for him because you're a fan, but you're also swinging and missing? Panning for Manning? Because Arch is going to be harder. Arch, starch for Arch, March for Arch. It's parch for Arch. Parch, you're thirsty.
So you're just gonna stop drinking so you can have Archie Manning? I'm parched for Arch.
Yeah, well, you're gonna stop winning. You're gonna stop the delicious drink and flavor taste of winning.
Just living with Cottonmouth because you want Archie Manning.
You're gonna parch for Arch. It's not great, admittedly, but it needs to rhyme. We're in agreement. Your alliteration's not enough, right? It's not enough to have an A, ass for Arch. Like you need
it's the ch at the end.
So then you got to go Manning, right? And Fanning and Panning are your only two choices.
Planning for Manning.
Planning for Manning.
You like that? All right. So put it on the poll at Le Batard Show.
I think Panning's the best.
What about tanning for Manning?
tanking a tanking team. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. A tanking team's best slogan. Fanning for Manning, panning for Manning.
Being starch for Arch. Starch for Arch.
tanning
yeah,
for
you're just
Manning.
getting skin cancer because you want Archie Manning.
Planning.
Darkest fan base.
Planning for Manning. Okay. We're in agreement that Manning is going to make this easier than Arch. We're going to quit on Arch, right?
No, I'm parched for Arch.
So you're mad at Feinbaum for saying that Arch Manning is the best freshman quarterback that I have seen. Freshman quarterback is Jameis Winston. That's the best I've seen in college football. Obviously, Tim Tebow is sort of the symbol for great college quarterback, right? I'd put Ken Dorsey in there as well, Danny Werfel, just a quarterback who you knew would be good in college but might not necessarily be much of a pro. That's not what they're saying about Arch Manning. Arch Manning, at this point, everyone's in agreement, correct, that Arch Manning will be an NFL quarterback.
I don't even know if he's good in college. Play an SEC team, not Mississippi State.
It doesn't matter if he's good in college or not. He's going to be a professional football
He's going to be the number 1 overall pick, even if he's not good in college.
I feel like it has to matter.
Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure that we could go look up Tim Boyle's numbers, and he has never had good numbers at any level of play, even high school, and yet he has started NFL games. I don't believe outside of injury that there is any sort of chance that Arch Manning will not throw a game as a starter in the NFL.
Nathan Peterman was in the NFL, for God's sake.
In 3 years at UConn, it was 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions for one Tim Boyle.
Matt Castle never started at USC, so I guess it is possible.
Right, but those guys weren't projected number 1 overall pick. Makes a little bit of a difference, right?
Well, if you had to bet and be right, though, Arch Manning will throw an NFL pass as an NFL starting quarterback, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
So there's your answer on why it is people are doing this, even though we haven't seen him play much. Like I saw Texas struggling a little bit trying to move the ball, and then they put in Arch Manning when their season ended, and Arch Manning made for Ewers coming right back into the game because they shouldn't have done that. He wasn't ready. He couldn't beat out what is a 6th-round pick who is now a backup quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
It was an injured Quinn Ewers coming back, too. I think it was in the Red River rivalry, and they tried Manning at the end of the first half. He didn't do anything either. I got news for you. Oklahoma sucked last year.
Not at defense, they didn't, but they were generally bad. Didn't they play him a little bit in the eliminator against Ohio State? Didn't Arch Manning come into the game in the championship game?
I don't think he threw any passes.
The expectation on this human being, though, because he has that name on the back of his uniform, is impossibly high. It is unbelievably weird to have a situation with a quarterback you have seen play sparingly, identified by Paul Feinbaum as the best quarterback since Tim Tebow.
It's definitely never happened before, right? That a quarterback is projected to go number 1 overall who we really haven't seen yet. That's never happened, has it?
Projected number 1 overall coming into college and can't get on the field his first couple of seasons because the starter there is established. And I would say that Quinn Ewers was one of the name quarterbacks in the sport last year, top 5 names of who you'd want quarterbacking your team, and he couldn't beat him out.
I mean, I don't know about that, but we're also saying he couldn't get on the field, but that's because of where he chose to go. He could have gone to any school and been the starter had he wanted to.
FAU probably would have started.
He chose to go there knowing he probably wasn't going to start. Like, it was a decision that they consciously made.
Right, but Sarkisian decided that Quinn Ewers was the better option.
That's correct.
Like, he's trying to win a national championship, Sarkisian.
That's right.
And he decided Quinn Ewers.
He had a team that was points away from being as good as Ohio State last year, and he started the other guy.